Hello, welcome to Breakfast Central from a rainy day in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. A lot of people have said, you know, this is showers of blessings. 26 uninterrupted year of our democratic experience since 1999. And today marks the second year anniversary of the Bola Tinubu APC administration. There's a lot for you in store today. We'll be giving you analysis and, of course, assessment of the two-year administration of President Bola Tinubu. I am Benga Aborowa.
And I am Olive Emodi. Thanking you very much for joining us this morning as we mark 2 years of President Bola Tinubu in office. I would like to urge you to share with us your thoughts on social media as to what the past 2 years has been like for you. While we agree, a number of us agree that it's not been the most easy 2 years, but have there been any highlights for you in the past 2 years? You can tweet at us at News Central TV on all platforms. I'll be glad to take your responses. Welcome once again to the show.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Joe Hansen, and it's going to be 3 hours of nothing more than the best as we take an incisive look and also share with you what definitely Nigerians are saying concerning 2 years. 2 full years of nothing more than Nigeria's, presidency, taking the charge and taking helms of affairs, ensuring that every single Nigerian is indeed taken care of. Well, you could look at it from different aspects or perspective, but from us here, we'll be looking at it from a general overview, and that's why we'll be having very interesting guests join us. Some would join us online, which is via video conferencing, and hopefully, as the rain continues to pour down heavily, we hope it will stop so that we can have our guests join us here as well anytime soon. So, Benga, Olive, it's 2 years, and we would be looking at this incisively, most importantly, mixed from the political economy
exactly.
and every other aspect.
Right.
I'm looking forward to getting into the show proper, but from a personal note, I'll say it's mixed bags. There's one thing I would say that worked positively for me in this administration, and kudos to the president and the Minister of Works. Third Mainland Bridge, it was a nightmare before the Tinubu administration, and they've done renovation works in the past where they will close the bridge for 6 months, and then when they open it, it will still be back to the same thing. This was a total overhaul. It was almost as if they built a brand new bridge. I mean, the fittings, the painting, the works, the layers, it wasn't a patchwork. So that's one thing that I can't say, because I remember the way that bridge was before the Tinubu administration. It was riddled with potholes. It was dark. The street lights didn't work, and the Tinubu administration did great work. The Ministry of Works, total overhaul of that bridge. So that's one of my positives for this administration.
Oh, that's good. Well, I think that works. Well, I think one that is starting to catch up, which I think we could say is one of the positives, is the NEL fund. Students are starting to come out.
Well, you're not a student, you're not a beneficiary. Is there anything that you've benefited directly from?
I am not.
Or are you doing your PhD?
I'm going to...
There's no law for PhD, I'm sorry. Maybe try during the second term.
I'm going to highlight it for, in the aspect of students. Yeah. Students are coming out to say, oh, my school fees was paid by the federal government and so on and so forth. And, you know, like we always say, let's see proof. We've always asked for proof. You would have a situation whereby you have people, let's even talk about the monies that the federal government says they would be sharing. They tell you, oh, we gave 50,000 naira to over 2.something million people.
Cash transfers.
And then we always ask, as journalists, as broadcasters, be it on TV, on radio, and we say, okay, if you collected this money, please call in. Or better said, if you collected this money, we have been forced to invite people to come on air and say, okay, just join us on set and tell us. But we're starting to see it differently from the NEL fund aspect, where students are coming out themselves to say, oh yes, I received, oh my school fees was paid for, oh this and that. And
even though they are also dragging their schools, because the students typically don't receive it directly. The
I mean, the schools are taking things like processing fees.
Yeah.
I mean, they're extorted, basically.
Well, I do recall, I think when we had the Nelson boss here and some of the things that was mentioned, it was stated clearly that the monies will not be paid to individuals, but will be paid directly to the schools. And I think that's a good one. I agree with that because Nigeria, we know how funny we could be sometimes where you have people even filing that they're students, whereas they are not. Just because they want to get that money hit, they want to ensure that the money hits their account, and then of course it's jaye.
Well, but I don't know. I don't know if individuals can even. I think that might be a bit harder because they have to go through the school unless they are colluding with the school.
That's what we're saying. Which is also possible. I mean, you could even have staff in quotes of the school who wouldn't even mind to register their own.
But
family
focus
members.
is on the positives.
Okay,
people
positives.
who can pay have an opportunity to
those
go to
who have
school,
who have had their school fees paid, it's a good thing for them, and I think that's one of the positives. The only thing I hope is if it could be continued in the next 2 years, it doesn't stop, and then transparency is very, very important because if you recall, a few months ago, there were fingers pointing towards the Nelson process that it seems to be shady and so on, and then they had to come out to
every
clear
Nigerian,
themselves.
our middle name is Thomas, Olive Thomas, Emodi, Jonathan Thomas.
I don't know about that. I don't have any Thomas in my name.
We're doubters.
I mean, I don't know about that, but that's what it is. So I think that's a positive so far. So
Olive is looking very meek. She wants to inherit the earth this morning.
You can call me McNeil.
Olive, it seems you are checking inside your Google Drive to find answers. You are digging
what's the positive? I mean, you've seen in the past 2 years. I mean, you're not only
I think we should do 1 year now. Because you have to look at where you are.
No, it's 2 years.
Because we had an analysis last year, so we should look at 1 year.
1 year is gone. 1 year is gone.
No, like the past 1 year. What has happened? What happened in the first year of his administration that maybe has improved in the second year of his administration?
Okay. I mean, it's your view. So go ahead.
So, in the first year of his administration, I did not have a nephew. In the second year, I have a nephew, which is a good thing for me.
That's personal now.
Voila.
That's not a governmental news.
I will talk about that much later because I think it's very important that I talk about having become an auntie to my nephew as part of the show much later. But maybe I would say that we had a lot of instances of fuel scarcity in the first year of his administration. It was so bad that a lot of us were trauma buying. Those of us that could afford to trauma buy. Oh yes, I did.
A whole celebrity like you. A whole diva is a female definition of a hustler like you. I can't believe my eyes.
My dear,
Wow,
if you didn't have cake,
this is what government did to
if
you.
you did not have cake, it will walk you like this. It will do you like a dream. You'll just be going home and you'll get home and realize all of a sudden.
You're in trouble.
On your way home, actually, you will start with, you just start seeing the filling stations you usually buy from. All of them are closed. You see the staff standing, but nobody's selling. It was, I think, the trauma of not having fuel was the most terrible, one of the most terrible things that I could have experienced as a Nigerian. I'll never forget one time I had gone on holiday, had a good time, enjoyed my life, came back into the country. The day I came back was the day it started. I just started crying. I was wailing that, what kind of life is this? I've come from somewhere where electricity is not a problem for me. Here I don't have electricity, I don't even have access to petrol. But I would say that in the past year, I don't think we've had as much incidences of fuel scarcity as we would have had typically, right? Expensive, yes, and even the rate of how expensive it is, we started to see it come down.
I mean, it got to a height of 1,000
exactly
plus at some point.
So I think it's a lot better for us now, because that's the one thing that a number of people said before, that it's expensive, yes, but at least let's have access to the product, because it's double jeopardy for it to not be accessible and to still be expensive. So there has been much access to petrol, and I won't even just give kudos to the administration, to be honest. I think also the Dangote Refinery played a huge role in ensuring that we have accessibility. Him also being able to take the bull by the horn and cause a change in the NNPC. For years, they've been asking for the unbundling of the NNPC and how we need to know how much is going into the Federal Reserves every month, year from the NNPC, because we didn't have a clear picture. But there's optimism that has been expressed that with the recent reshuffling that's happened in the NNPC, we'll see a much more clearer
because they seem to have industry
there.
professionals that have been appointed into the board and managerial positions. So we'll wait and see.
And that we will no longer be hearing propaganda of this refinery is now working, and then 2 months later it has shut down. This refinery is working. No, they are blending.
Something be working last month and you are shutting it down for turnaround maintenance.
Do you understand?
This month.
So yeah, I think accessibility to fuel. But that will pose the question to you: what has the past year of the President Tinubu-led administration been for you? Were there positives? And if there are positives, we will get into the ones where we are being critical or where we are criticizing the things that haven't worked. But what are the things that have worked for you in this administration? Let us know. You can tweet at us individually. You can tweet at Joe Hansen, Benga Borowa, Oliver Modi, and you can also tweet at News Central TV. So we will be glad to take your tweets today on air.
Absolutely, absolutely. But don't forget too that in the course of the 3 hours, we'll be analyzing and looking deeply into, as mentioned by Olive, some of the things that have worked and some of the promises that were made and have not indeed been fulfilled. So many of them. During the May Day, the president, in his speech, said that he is determined to fight corruption. And he would ensure that he fights corrupt officials, whoever it is, basically corruption, especially to the detriment of the downtrodden, those who are, down there, who are struggling, and so on and so forth. It kind of like sounded a bit like a song, a bittersweet song, because the reactions came immediately when Nigerians were saying, oh, really? The president wants to fight corruption? The government wants to fight corruption? So how do we go about not holding people accountable, especially those who have been corrupt, in the glaring eyes of every single individual?
And I hope as we're also holding the president accountable and looking at his scorecard, we also have multitudes of elected officials in Nigeria. They almost get a get out of jail free card. If they like it when the attention is on the president. So the search beam isn't really much on them. And I'm talking of governors and senators.
I'm glad
and
you mentioned governors
officials.
because a certain government at the 2023 elections promised his citizens that he would get at least 4,000 or 40,000 youths to Europe. They will get jobs. That in fact, when you get it, the government will sponsor your flights and everything.
Said he was going to sponsor them. I think we have the footage somewhere. He was going to sponsor them a trip. Wow.
Yes, a certain governor in the southeastern part of the country.
So it would be nice to know what the situation is.
Nothing has happened.
Nothing happening.
None of them have been
crying.
No.
The people are crying. Even Benin Republic, they couldn't go.
Those are
grandiose
it's nice we take a holistic look at not just the two.
Yes, not just all the people that are working in the administration, the governors and all the like.
Local government and the likes. But then again, I want to welcome you officially to Breakfast Central. It's a special edition. Our guests will be joining us as we take a look at the scorecard of the current administration, the presidency, not forgetting to the one who is indeed heading the entire state. Don't forget, we also have State of the Nation to discuss as well, which is a bigger conversation in the past 2 years. So do us a favor, stay with us. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll go straight into every single detail. Plus, our producer also went on the streets to speak to a cross-section of Nigerians yesterday, and they also had the 5 cents, or you could say 1 cent, or whatever.
Or you can say 50. Or you can say 50 cents.
50 cents, yeah. To share with us. But let's go with that quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, even as we all talk about the 2 years of President Bola Tinubu in administration, his time in office, our thoughts on the positives and the negatives, we here at News Central went out to the streets to feel the pulse of the people, as we always do. And we asked them what their thoughts and their feelings about President Bola Tinubu's time in office is, and here's what they had to say.
He promised a lot of things, a lot of good things, but now the reverse is the case. Well, I keep wondering people around him if they are telling the truth or not. But I think Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians are suffering. He promised good road, he promised us electricity, he promised us good life. But today, during the campaign, I was telling people that Tinubu already has money, that I think he was going to come to give us a good life because he's not hungry for me. But to my surprise, it seems he's more hungry than every other Nigerian.
It has been 2 years of toughness, of suffering, of people, regretting what they have done in that year. Okay, so my word to our president is that he should at least listen to the masses and they look up to them and see what they are really saying that he needs to address in his administration, because they are saying a lot. It's not everybody that hates him, it's not everybody that loves him, so he needs to listen to the people and know what exactly, where they are pointing their hands and be able to walk towards the joy of the people that he's ruling.
I was telling him that I've never gotten old yet, and I remember when things were still better, like he says the country is going to get better, but the only thing I really just actually care about is good, eat well. But actually, if they ask us to trade good roads, light, if they ask us to trade good roads, lights, good construction for good food, I think everybody in the country will pick good food at the moment.
First, I would like to appreciate him for what he's doing and the boldness he has to do all those things he's doing, but I will be glad if he can also focus on what people are saying. So let him listen to what people are saying, basically, because people are going through a lot and you cannot stop them from saying what they are going through.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, I will rate him 4 over 10. Because I didn't really see him, working to the interest of the people, both his people and people who are not his people. Yes, everybody is complaining.
Solid 1.5. But I've not seen anything good. If you can, like, when good luck left, Buhari came, it was worse. Buhari left, Tinubu entered, it was worse. Anything that makes Tinubu leave, and we're missing Tinubu. I think at this point, some people will actually prefer to go back to Buhari era. But anything that makes us leave Tinubu, and we're missing Tinubu, that means this country is really bad, because I'm not saying everybody can sit down and think about one good thing Tinubu has done for us now.
I can't give him a rate, because I may give him a rate now that he will be less than it, and I might hype him up and he will not be up to it. So the best rate is to do what he wants to do and to reach out to the youth and the masses.
Zero, nothing to write about. Nothing to write about. I mean, when I said nothing, I mean zero. Is zero with a dot with 2 years, 0 upon 0. Back then in school, when you don't impress your teacher, he draws your head and pulls your eyes and your ears. So Tinubu administration is 0.
That uncle was very angry. If you want to go back to school, they'll draw your 0, put your eyes and your ears.
If I was Mr. President, I would sit down with my media team, advisors and communicators. But what's going on? I don't think I've put in all this work in the last 2 years, and it's not trickling down to Nigerians, because that's legitimate and authentic feedback from a cross-section of Nigerians. I mean, they're urban, and they live in the city. So you might argue about the sample size or the location, but I mean, frankly speaking, that's the general sense of what we're getting from Nigerians. Is it that there's a communication breakdown? Are they doing such a fantastic job? Because if you had watched the APC summit at the Villa just last week and you saw Senate President Godswill Akpabio, their accolades were almost falling over themselves to see who can praise the president the most in his administration in the last 2 years. And then you juxtapose that with what we just listened to. There's a complete contrast. So is it that Nigerians are not getting information on the great work that the APC is doing, or they're not thankful or they're not grateful? Because, I mean, quite frankly, from what we just listened to, it's, like Olive said they give you a 0 and draw your ears.
So the thing is also there's a huge disconnect, right? Our current crop of leaders, there seems to be a disconnect with those at the top and those at the bottom. The reality that we just saw on TV right now is the reality of the masses, and how you can gauge, check the temperature of the masses is in the little things. Those at the top will come and talk to you about economic reforms and the policies that have been made and how these policies take time. It's been 2 years. The masses will tell you about the cost of things in the market, how much is Some of them can't afford to eat food. Here in Nigeria, we prize the highlight of a meal is your protein. So if you have chicken or turkey, there are people who don't even have that anymore because they can't even afford a basic meal. So it's what is the current reality of the average Nigerian? How easy are they able to purchase food? How are they able to purchase petrol? What is the current state of electricity? And it feels like there is an inflation all around. Inflation shot up past 24%. We're seeing that not just with food inflation, everybody is feeling it. So the transportation sector, there's an increase in the cost of transportation. It is still the masses that will pay this transportation. There's no form of subsidy for them anywhere. It's not like their salaries are increasing. So people still have to increase their expenditure on the same income.
The government said they understand the suffering of the
So that's the
masses,
problem.
and they bought palliative measures, CNG buses, and things like that. It's I believe it was just barely scratching the surface.
It goes back again to what I'm saying, that is the disconnect. Remember how last year, I think it was either on Democracy Day or on May 29th, where we had tons of people in front of President Bola Tinubu's apartment in Ikoyi.
Yeah.
Tons of them. People were hungry. And it doesn't mean that people still aren't hungry. Every day, I'm sure you both are inundated with messages from people asking for one form of help or the other, for house rent, for feeding. The basics, when you want to check the quality of life of a person, before you can start talking of savings and investment, those things sound
They're aspirational.
They're aspirational for a number of people. People just want to be able to feed.
Yeah.
They just want to be able to move from their house to their office or their place of hustling and back to their homes. And be sure that one, they will still have enough to feed. Two, they will not be kidnapped. And three, if they fall ill, they can get basic health care. And those three can't be guaranteed.
It's well, I mean, you've highlighted some of these key issues. It's the same thing every average Nigerian is also talking about. I also think that the timing matters the most, the timing. In the past 2 years, we've seen an increase in the cost of living. Oliver's mentioned transportation. Let's also not forget that we are also battling with power. You know, the PHCN, NEPA, the increase in tariff.
Everything.
And they're all happening at the same time. In the previous government of former President Muhammadu Buhari, were there increase in, cost of living in terms of commodities and so on? Yes, there were, but they were not as what we have today. Very different in terms of similarities. But what we have today is we see it cut across board everywhere. If you used to pay 500 naira to transport yourself to and fro to work, now you're paying 1,500, and that's very expensive. That's very expensive. If we're paying as low as 10,000 naira to ensure that you have power. This time, you're not paying 10,000 naira anymore.
And your wages haven't tripled.
That's where we're going to. Now, there's also the introduction of the review of the minimum wage from 35,000 to 70,000. Some state governors under the edges of the APC had agreed that, listen, we're even going to do more. In Lagos State, we're hearing it was 100,000 naira and so on. But in the past 2 years, there has been failure in implementing this minimum wage to cut across board. As we speak now,
there are some states
are even paying lesser than 30,000 naira. And we highlighted that on this show. So you may start to wonder, is it just a speech in the air where it's not reaching the people? It's just, like they say, talk, but there's no do. That's another aspect to look at. Now, let's also not forget the issue of the local government, where autonomy and so fantastic. That's a good one, fantastic. But implementation is also a problem.
The Supreme Court.
Even after the Supreme Court. So you see,
in July,
we have the judiciary to look into in the past 2 years. How's the judiciary done? Recently, we talked about it here on the breakfast show that the CJN, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, had also come out and say, listen, we need to be professionals in our field. She also talked about the slow processes of ensuring that the laws are indeed put in place. And I remember one of our guests who had joined us, he said, if the CJN is complaining, then who's going to fix it? And that's a very big question. it leaves a lacuna for everybody to really think about. Because if the CJN cannot fix it, then there is a problem. And I think, for me, I just think 2 years taking on too much seems to be the bane of the current administration's problem. Rather, maybe taking 3 first. I always ask myself, why do we do 8-point agenda, 10-point agenda, 15-point agenda?
You know, the basis of all this discussion and everything we're talking about started with it took 2 decisions. But let's also be fair and remember. But I mean, in other climes, people disagree, and personally, I disagree, because it was an APC government that took over from another APC government. It's not like a different party. But in fairness, the president's health bill was, the economy's health bill was poor. It was terrible when he took over the reins of office from President President Muhammadu Buhari. And he made a decision 2 years ago on Inauguration Day. Subsidy is gone. The removal of the subsidy and also floating of the naira at the same time was earthquaking. It did have serious economic implications, and they didn't think, I don't really think they put deep thought into the day after.
Right.
And the consequences is what we're dealing with now.
But then again, the statement would be that, was that not going to be the position? Maybe he shouldn't have said it in the way.
He should have staggered, I mean, face by face.
But it wasn't made provision for already. So there was, subsidy was actually already going to be gone. And all the other presidential aspirants had all said they were going to take out subsidy.
Yes.
So it's not like he was going to come and remove something that was there. The report, but I mean, this is just an argument that I don't think we will be the ones to talk about. Let's bring in our guests. But on this edition of the program, like you can see, we have been doing a broad assessment of the performance of President Tinubu's 2 years in office, and we'll continue to do this broad assessment from the economy to the judiciary, as well as a look at the governance and political landscape of the country. We'll be taking a look at his wins, struggles, and the hard-hitting realities Nigerians face daily. So buckle up. We're bringing you the facts, the figures, and the voices that matter on a special edition of the program today tagged The Scorecard. From the trio of myself, Benga, and Joe, we say welcome. Now, joining us for this first segment for an overview of the appraisal of the state of the economy 2 years since President Tinubu assumed office is Chief Economist and lead head. We'll be having one of our very in-house members here, public affairs analyst. It's always a pleasure to have Dr. Naimeka Obiariri join us on Breakfast Central. Good morning. Happy 2 years of President Tinubu in office. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right. So I think before we get into the details and looking from segment to segment, let's just get a broad sense of what you think. What are you feeling about President Bola Tinubu's 2 years in office?
Policy-wise, he brought in some good policy pronouncements that were not backed up with commensurate measures. I hear you guys arguing about the subsidy removal and removal of the multiple exchange rate regimes. Those 2 policies that President Bola Tinubu implemented and announced were spot on. There's nobody in this country that did not know that we will go to where we were by May 29, 2023, because of the recklessness, the criminality, the impunity that happened under the Buhari regime. I don't want us to look back 8 years ago. But I want to clarify something so that people will know. The policies were spot on, but the matching works, we are nothing to write home about. Before he removed, but he didn't float the currency for his currency rates, to be precise. We had a multiple exchange rate regime then that encouraged criminality, money laundering, and money kiting. We had official rate at 430 and black market rate at 650, 700. So there was an arbitrage window of over 300 naira that players in the industry manipulated, both those in the banking industry and those in the public sector. Between 2015 to 2023, we had an inflow of over $640 billion. And the outflow that was less than that. In fact, we had a net inflow of $160 billion. If you add in our foreign exchange earning through crude oil sales, our diaspora remittances, our borrowings and everything, net, our naira to the dollar shouldn't have been at anything above 200 naira to $1. but most of them were filtered away. So by matching the foreign exchange rate, Tinubu did the right thing to remove the arbitrage window for such kidnapping. And it has happened. You can see that there's a bit of stability. But what he did not do right, after he removed subsidy, because the essence of removing subsidy was for us to have more money coming into the bucket. Remember that in 2010, 2014, NNPC was remitting average of about $3 to $3.5 billion into the federation account because we had more crude oil output and there was no leakages in terms of the criminality that happened in NNPC between 2023 till when Melekere was removed. Now, it will shock you. What would have expected President Tinubu to have done after he did? Cardoso was very on top of his game at the central bank. If Cardoso was receiving $3 billion, $3.5 billion every month, just like his predecessors, wouldn't have had the kind of madness we had in the foreign exchange volatility. Basically, what happened was that the criminality, the wickedness at the NNPC did not allow us to enjoy the benefits of that removal. One would have expected the Tinubu to have received Melekere and his board and management. In fact, Cardoso did that. When Cardoso entered Central Bank, he fired practically all the players that were with MFL and brought his own people. Tinubu, as the petroleum minister, the first thing we will have done will have been to sack Melekere, sack all those that were part of the game for the 8 years that Buhari was there. And then carry that massive prosecution of all of them.
But now that he has done that, Mr. Barry, does it matter that
does
it matter that he has done that now and that he's changed the leadership of the NNPC
and CBN?
Too late. He did it too late. It's like somebody that needed surgery immediately. You did not perform that surgery until the person hemorrhaged. Let me tell you. Okay, after he has removed Melekere, what steps have we taken to recover the massive rot and the larceny that happened at the NNPC? Let me tell you what people don't understand. Here in Nigeria, in I think it was our right studio, Melekere mentioned to the Nigerians that we lost average of $1.9 billion to crude oil and inefficiency every month. As the NNPC czar, he announced it, I think it was in 2009, 2021. From 2021 to 2023, he couldn't stop any of those ones, and he was still kept. When Tinubu became president, the first thing he would have done was to clean out the Ujah table. Clean out this table. And okay, video. You can read what they come. We are recovering money from the MFL. The other day we saw over 750 houses recovered. Who was recovering things from the MFL? Who wasn't even the one selling the crude oil? Who was only managing the money? Whereas the people who managed the resources, who freaked out our resources, the people who brought us to where we are working free in a standard line. Melekere and every one of them who managed NNPC should have been facing the same fire MFL is facing today. But where are they? Those are the kind of contradictions, the kind of things we see that make people begin to wonder what actually is the intention and purpose of this government.
Have any belief in the current administration that they are going to stem the tide in favor of Nigerians? 2 years gone and another 2 years about to begin from today. Do you have any sense of belief that things will turn out better for the benefit of every single Nigerian?
Looking at
the economy, looking at as an investment bank, looking at the foreign direct investments. There were some that were mentioned at the start of the year that we're going to have money trickle in. And there's also some benefits that were mentioned just a few hours ago on the Sukuk fund, that it's hit a staggering 700 and something % ever that is ever done before. So does this give some sense of hope? Do you believe that the next 2 years can be better?
I've always had this unquenchable hope that Nigeria can recover within 2 years if the right things are done. Let me tell you, there is no country in the whole wide world that has the depth of potential that this country has. If only our political leaders show compassion, show sense of responsibility, put in the right political way. Within next week, if President Bola Tinubu wants to right the wrongs and stem the tide within next week, he can easily do it. And I will explain to you, I will give you things that he can do. The major obstacle in the room is corruption, inefficiencies, and then insecurity. I don't want to sound like a broken drum. I've many times here profiled solutions of things we can do to tackle insecurity, to stem food inflation, to bring down prices of goods and services, and even within the next 1 year, we can export nothing less than $300 billion worth of non-oil revenue, generate non-oil dollar revenue. What President Tinubu should be doing now, rather than grappling with its agenda, is to focus on 2 agendas. The 2 agendas should be restructuring Nigeria. Nigeria needs urgent restructuring. Constitutional restructuring, fiscal restructuring, governance restructuring, massive electoral reform. I don't know, at the age and what President Tinubu has accomplished, I don't think there's anything left for him. He has become president. If he truly loves Nigeria and he loves God, the next thing he should do, forget about all the sounding, the noise around him. I say to everybody who cares to listen, we may be quick again to say, okay, it's Mr. President. Mr. President is not omnipresent, he's not omniscient, he is not God. He is dealing with 1,300 MGAs. And see, people said in Proverbs 25:5, if you surround the king with righteous men, if the king is incompetent and unrighteous, you will be forced to do the right thing. But if you surround the king with very wicked, very pliant, very hypocritical, very sycophantic heads, who are incompetent and who always cover their incompetency in sycophancy, no matter how well the intention the king is, they will mess him up. He should narrow 2 agendas. He will structure Nigeria. Nigeria was very, very excellent between 1960 to 1966 because of the structure we had. Fiscal federalism, reform INEC, and bring about massive electoral reform. If he does this within the next 2 years, you will be shocked how quick this country will turn around. This will even help us to tackle insecurity. The insecurity within Nigeria is internally allowed to fester. That external that can stop insecurity, that can allow insecurity fester internally. Now, internally. We've advocated this issue of 809 agro clusters in Nigeria, 800 to 1,000 hectares. Set up agro rangers, 100 agro rangers in every electoral ward. Properly train them, and post them back to their wards. Equip the military and the police have shown clear that they are incapable of tackling insecurity. Indigenous people, economics. In every local government area, 3 mounted, 3 APC, armored personnel carrier, and 1 machine gun. Get all these people, the state governors and national security advisor, to be under joint command with the coordinator who will command them in each state. Let me tell you, in less than 6 months, we will clear all these insurgents, these bandits in the southeast, non government, the Fuller herdsmen terrorists, ISWAP, the top of the state said it clearly that if they had the police with 2 weeks, they would destroy all the bandits in Zamfara state. So I want to appeal to him as a very passionate Nigerian who is heartbroken with the state of things in Nigeria. If he can narrow his agenda to just restructure Nigeria, and he has always believed in Nigeria restructuring. He has always been an advocate of fiscal federalism. Bola Tinubu has always been an advocate of sovereign national conference. Now he's Mr. President. He has the power. He has the leaders. Now he has even a President National Assembly that he can even get to do his bidding. Let him restructure Nigeria. Tell the truth. Nigeria has the potential to become a $2 trillion economy within the next 10, 12 years. If we do the right thing, every other thing they are doing will not work. Under the current criminal seeking arrangement that we have, Nigeria, even if you bring an angel in Nigeria to govern Nigeria, it will continue to go south. We just need to fix the foundation. If the foundation is fixed, it's going to work again.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about, just recently the National Assembly received a letter from Mr. President requesting a $24 billion loan facility and other monies too, the sum, I believe, about 5 million yen. As an investment banker, giving your background in finance, if this money is judiciously used, the details, like they say, the devil is in the details. We don't have the details of specific projects, but if it's what the paper is written on and is judicially used, are we likely to see a transformation? And do you have any fears for the repayment and our debt portfolio in general?
My fear is not on the borrowing. My fear is on the application. My fear is not President Tinubu borrowing the money. My fear is who are those that will apply the use of that money. Between 2015 to 2023, received inflows of over $638 billion and outflows of about $460 billion. We had a net inflow of about $160 to $180 billion. Yet, our naira lost, our economy depreciated. Borrowing 22 billion is not the issue, it's how it is applied. Let me tell you, we have a global infrastructure development master plan that was developed in 2007 that clearly stated that we have to move from our current state of our current poverty state status to a second world economy, that we will need consistent investments of nothing less than $100 billion every year over that 30 years, which is about $3 trillion. So $21 billion does not even meet the $100 billion criteria. But if they properly apply this $21 billion under most, if they put it on projects that are economic catalyzing, productivity catalyzing, on projects, and like I've always advised them, if they decide to use this money to drive most PPP projects, if they go to this, I give example how they can apply this money. Out of this $21 billion they are borrowing, if they use $15 billion to set up 2,500 agro-pastoral clusters across Nigeria, with 300 agro-rangers in each cluster, in less than 1 year, that money will become $209 billion every year for the remaining years that are going to use it. We will repay that money in less than 2 years. We can give them the template of how they can apply it. If they take the remaining $6 billion to fund the agro-rangers as the first take-off fund, $3.75 billion to do the hard works, and $1.6 billion to their required expenditure. In 6 months, we will destroy insecurity in Nigeria, no matter who is sponsoring it. If they rightly apply that $21 billion only, and the rest of the, I tell you, in next 1 year, Nigeria will turn out. But if they, just like the Buhari borrowed over $31 billion in foreign external debts. It was 10 billion when he became president. It was about 41 when he left. It's about 45 now. Domestic debt, they took almost about 51 trillion. Where is the money? MFL printed 23 trillion naira, $50 billion. I hand over to Buhari and co. What they do with the money? He was so clueless that those around him were running rings around him. President Tinubu should, even this borrowing, even if they borrow $50 billion, I am not against leveraging. Leverage financing is good, contrary borrowing. But it is the application. Like I told you here, if you give me that $21 billion to manage for President Tinubu, in 2 years, applied, some of these things have been enumerated here, Nigeria will become a great country. But my fear is, we have seen borrowings in the past. We have seen applications in the past. I fear for future of Nigeria.
Okay, let's then try to look at what has been working. At the start of this conversation, you did say that there are some policies, policy-wise, you were very satisfied, maybe not very, but that you were impressed to an extent with what President Bola Tinubu has done. Let's highlight the policies that you feel have been great policies for our nation.
The number one, the goal of subsidy was spot on. Matching of the foreign exchange rates to achieve a bit of stability. And we have seen the stability, because basically what happened was that nobody would, I don't feel accountable for what happened, because the problem we had there was 95% on the fiscal side, 95% and 5% from the monetary policy side. Of course, they removed subsidy, merged the foreign, the multiple exchange rates regime into one exchange. And then there was no dollar to protect the naira, and it went yo-yo. Today, you can see a bit of stability in that market. It's currently at about 1,590 official, and the 1,610 parallel market. The Vietnamese dong is about 24,000 dong to $1, far, far worse than the naira. But the Vietnamese economy is 5 times ahead of Nigeria because of productivity. So the policies are good, but is the framework around those policies, making sure that they work, is what President Tinubu will have to tweak. And then this other issue now they are trying to do, the bill that the National Assembly that will allow the central management of recovered assets. Very, very good. When passed, they should go beyond that to amend the CCB for transparency's sake and to protect the system. If we have a system that is very transparent, not more cleaner in Nigeria than the Americans and the Britishers. They have safety valves. They have measures that deter people from doing what they want to do. And what are those things they should do? Amend the CCB Act. Every public office holder going forward must declare their asset and liability publicly. There's nothing like secret CCB filing. And then there should be an e-portal where this thing should be listed openly. So Nigerians will know unambiguously, not like Buhari's own. You must show us what you own and what you owe in detailed terms. If you have property, valuation and where it is located. And now we should enshrine the Whistleblowers Act in the CCB Act in a way that if any Nigerian helps to blow a whistle and assets are recovered, the person will collect 20%. In this way, every Nigerian becomes an EFCC agent, and there's no hiding place. Even your wife and domestic staff will warrant for you if you're a thief. And then going forward, even further to that, we must make sure every asset registration, be it land, be it even a corporation of companies, you must put in your name. You can't avoid paying tax. You must put in your name. You must put in your BVN. In such way, it's easy for us to tackle and track corruption. And then the issue of dollar in Nigeria. We must ban use of dollar cash beyond $1,000. If you bring your dollar, even if you're bringing $1 million cash, pay it into an account, into your dollar account. And then anybody who is seen with any dollar cash more than $1,000, 1 year imprisonment, no option of fine. This way, it will help the CBN to be able to monitor the inflow and outflow of dollars, because most of the ways our public office holders launder and steal money is to buy the properties. That's why if you come to Banana Land here now, over 50% of the properties are empty. These are instruments of laundered money. They buy dollar cash and stack in their houses. When we put in place these measures that deters corruption, that makes everybody accountable, and that engenders productivity, I tell you the truth. And then when those assets are put in those central management agencies, this issue of people confiscating assets and doing a amount of things and then selling to police will be avoided. When we do these things, these three policies have been very, very good. I still support it. But the problem is getting the right people in the FDAs to help President Tinubu ensure the execution. It has been the weak link. He did the right thing, the removal subsidy. But the man who was running it, Meleke and the rest of them, we have run him rough short. The only person he got right was Yemi Cardoso. They did the right thing. It was adjustable. And they put in place players within the other MDAs, NNPC. But I pray the new guys he puts there at NNPC, they are able to help him to at least achieve level of stability within that place. But I'm still not seeing the movement in that sector up to now.
There's a lot to also talk about, but what do you make of the talking about the regional development commissions? We did see the
Southeast,
Southeast, we also saw the North. I mean, just recently, the Borno State governor was supported by the Northern one. I mean, a lot of persons have said this is a good one. It's a good way to ensure that development is sped up. But how can this affect the presidency's decisions and, again, implementation on Nigerians and on ensuring that they benefit from the dividends of democracy in just 2 years?
Those commissions, I expect them to have hit the ground running, but most of them are still doing visiting. Either they are visiting Sheyi or they are visiting the president and they are doing photo ops. Most of them have not yet sat down to, look at what their mandates are and how they can impact on their regions. None of them will get nothing less than 250 billion. The problem with Nigeria is we are not short of policies. We are not short of good programs. We are short of the Josephs, the Daniels, the Shedrats, the Mishas, Abednegos, men that are selfless, men that are compassionate, men that are empathetic to the plight of the people, men that have the competencies and skills. The challenge we have is those who are going to run and manage this. You see, I say it with every sense of responsibility. When you appoint incompetent people, when you appoint people who know they don't even have the capacity to do their job, the next thing they do is that they go into next speckling psychopaths. That is why you see governors kneeling down to greet people and all the manner of high service. When you appoint competent people to run a show, they won't even see Mr. President. They won't even bother seeing Mr. President. Job is let their results show. That is why when you see a Messi and a Ronaldo, They don't appeal to any coach. They go into the pitch, they do their thing. In fact, coaches will go out of their way to make sure if Ronaldo say he wants to play defensive midfielder, they will give him because he will deliver. But when you get in some competent, some weak players who are not skillful, who cannot deliver, they will try to do it. They may even go to the coach's house to start and wash his plate so that coach will feel that. And this is what we have in Nigeria. When you have people who understand their job, are competent, bold, who are courageous, who are fearless, they don't. Akim was one of those ministers. When Akim was up to be in Nigeria, he came to Nigeria. They gave him a portfolio different from what he wanted. He flew back to the US. They had to beg him. Of course, you saw what Akim did when he was Minister of Agriculture. Instead of he's just finishing 10 years at LDB. These are the kind of men we require in Nigeria. People that will take on the assignments and they will run with one track mind, like the Josephs, like the Daniels, like the Shadrachs, like the Meshachs, when they are people like the Hazard, who are incompetent prophets, all they'll be looking is how they get him brave and they gunje, and then they will collect reports upon themselves and the whole of their family and generation. So this is what we have in Nigeria. Instead of having Daniels and Josephs in the place of power, what we have mostly across the MDS are the Hazards, and the Hazards are only incompetent, not only incompetent, they are also very corrupt. All they do is looking for what to do to collect money and put in their pocket. They don't care about the vision of the leader. They don't care about the interest of the people. All they want is how they can stop their pockets and heal their so-called economic life. And that is why we are where we are. The problem is not just Mr. President. The problem is even a majority of us. Because the truth is, if each and every one of us can develop this massive disdain for corruption, because for me, I don't have no single regard for the average Nigerian politician. And that is the truth. If every average Nigerian can have that kind of level of disdain, righteous indignation, so they know that you don't have any regard for them, you don't worship them, you don't respect them, they will all sit up. But the problem is, we elevate incompetent people in positions and power that are beyond their competency and integrity grade. And then we don't want to worship them and look at their feet. And we are today because that.
Hello, sir. Are you still with us? Well,
I'm here.
Okay. Great submission. My next question is, I want to put myself, or let's put ourselves in the shoes of ordinary Nigerians. We did a vox pop this morning. Our reporters went around town, and the feelings you get from most parts of the country is that, they don't see the macroeconomics, they don't see the GDP cost, they can't relate in terms of removal of subsidy and floating of the naira. All they know is the price of things have gone up. It's the cost of living, and that's their biggest worry, and that's what affects them the most. So they've been scoring the administration low. But you said, this removal of subsidies was a good thing, and the floating of the naira. As we speak, the food prices are also soaring. Inflation is slightly to 23.71, but that's still high. What can the government do in the interim to reach this masses, the critical mass of Nigerian people that are living under multidimensional poverty, who are struggling with the high cost of living? Are there any low-hanging fruits that could bring the prices of things down and change their lot in the interim, because it's really biting hard?
To give you one practical example, if I am President Tinubu, I will have lawyered my Minister of Agriculture, because they are not only advising him, they are practically doing nothing in that sector. We talk about food inflation. Food inflation is at 34%. It's not supposed to be so. I'll give you an example, the issue of rice importation. A bag of rice was selling from 90,000 to 100,000. In fact, it came down to about 80,000 in December, and even 75,000. I have rice milling plants, not just one, not two. We have rice milling plants. And the whole effort of going to that sector, agri sector, is to see how we can help bring down food prices. Now, what did the minister do? To produce rice, rice is something you can produce 2,000 a year. You can cultivate rice today, produce it within 150 days and process it. To produce rice and increase the price of rice to 45,000 a bag, all you need to do is to break Nigeria into clusters and get farmers under PPP arrangement to do 2 million hectares of rice plantations using the Gary spreadsheet that can give us about 6 tons per hectare. To set up a cottage mill of about 10 tons, I have many of them. It will take less than 50 million naira to do. when we do this, within the next 6 months, we will do over 27 million tons of rice, parboiled rice, and we'll sell rice at less than 50,000 naira, 50 kg bag. But do you know what they did? They were able to misadvise Mr. President to give out import waivers to some people to bring in rice. I had such offers that I rejected it. You can bring 50 kg bag of rice and land it in Nigeria at a climbing cost of 45,000 naira. And then these people, they got the waivers, they are bringing in the rice, they are landing the rice at 45,000 naira. They rather than sell it at a price that is good. The rice is still at 65,000, 70,000, 75. Some of them are also, you see them going on the air to say, oh, we should clap that the rice price have come down. What they have simply done is to kill the local rice industry and open the floodgate again for massive criminality and massive arbitrage and the making of wealth by few free criminal capital within the system. They call them crony capitalists. So if the Minister for Agric is very sincere and he knows his job, in that position, 6 months, we will carry the food price in Nigeria. This is within the purview of the governors and local, a very knowledgeable, deeply knowledgeable, experienced, and driven Minister for Agric will alliance with the governors and local government chairmen and put in place the right NCDP framework to drive that product. I mean, security is another issue. And I've talked about Sniper Rangers. If President Tinubu should put in place this indigenous-based security outfit that puts security back in the hand of the people, and he has a Minister for Agric who can coordinate things for him, I tell you, in 6 months to 1 year, we will crash food inflation to lower single digits. We have the land mass, we have the population, we have the technology. We can easily procure and bring in tractors here. If they are able to do that and make it tariff-free, today, we are bringing in about 100 tractors. A container of tractors will cost about 5 million. So it will cost 15 million to clear it. In certain environment, you don't need to go to national finance and go through rigorous exercise to get import duty exemption certificates. It just requires an executive bill by Mr. President, signed, executed and signed, and said, anybody bringing in tractors, bringing in processing plants for agric in Nigeria, tariff-free. All you need to do is scan it. Once you scan it, and it is so, bring it in, use it, and let us build up this sector. That is the lowest hanging fruit to catalyze jobs, catalyze productivity, and catalyze the stability of price of goods and services and even the forex market. But the problem is, he has people around him who are only interested on how they can tweak and manipulate the policies for their own selfish end. I tell you, as Minister for Agriculture, I will crash that price of rice down to below 50 naira per 50 kg bag. And across all the food value chain, in the yam sector, we need about 1.8 billion tons of yam to meet domestic yam demand. In the southeast, I've told the governors in the southeast to do enough yam to be able to produce yam 10 kg at 1,500 naira maximum. Do 369 million yams. All we need about 18 hectares of land, and we can show them how they can do it. In 7-8 months, everyone will be flooded with rice. We will process the powder and sell abroad. But the problem is that we have people who are appointed to run FGS, both in the federal and the state level, who have no business being in the public space. But they are there because they are spittling psychopaths, they are cowards, they genuflect before the presidents and governors, like those that genuflected before Nebuchadnezzar. But the only people that refuse to genuflect before Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are the competent and excellent ones who are not corrupt. And that is the truth and reality of what's happening in Nigeria today.
So, still talk about some of the monetary issues, withdrawal limits. Because we're looking at the impact of this on not just those at the higher echelons of society, but the masses, right? Withdrawal limits, we can see that the central bank's new ATM fee structure means that there is, I believe, 100 naira on every 20,000 naira. And with the POS operators who are, there are people who have benefited very interestingly from our economy. We're seeing that you can have to spend as much as 500 naira to withdraw certain amount of money. So how do we navigate that? Do you think that the CBN has made policies that have in any way protected the ordinary everyday man with regards to transactions that they have to make?
To be honest, the Central Bank of Nigeria, as an institution, has done a lot to see how they can implement a cashless society where we can do a lot of our transactions across the e-channels. And again, the mobile telecom operators like MTN is doing a lot in that area. And what we expect us to do is to deepen the infrastructure to enable more e-channel transactions, because I'm not a believer in cash transactions. And also, the Central Bank of Nigeria should do a lot also in
Seems we have some connectivity issues there. Challenges connecting with.
I don't want to believe it's the
Dr.
rain.
Naika.
You know, when we were growing up, anytime it rains, NEPA strikes.
Not what is when we're growing up. Is that not something that still happens today?
Also, rain affects
yes, a lot of
everything.
connections.
It affects connection to DSTV.
phone calls,
Yeah.
everything.
Well, I'm still growing up. I'm a youngster, please. Yesterday was just Children's Day, so let me enjoy my week.
Yeah. But anyway, I think Dr. Naika has said a lot that if implemented, I think one of the highlights I'm going to take from his entire conversation with us, looking at the 2-year administration so far so good, is in the aspect of implementation. When you asked him about the borrowings, he said he's not afraid of the borrowings. He's worried about how they would use and implement.
When I said everyone is,
and he also mentioned how that money can be gotten back in due time.
Fantastic, very practical example.
Very practical example. But it also goes to show that the road or the journey to where Nigeria is going to is not far off. It's very close. From his analysis, if and only if things are done appropriately and are done in the right way.
Right.
That's exactly.
He also talked about restructuring being the main issue that the government of the day should focus on, and not this 8-point agenda. Just look at doing a proper restructuring. Restructuring in the terms of what restructuring should actually mean. Do restructuring in our economic reforms.
More powers to the federation
exactly.
units.
So he talked about that, but also it was very interesting to hear him speak about, because this is something we started the show with when we talked about the removal of fuel subsidy and the changes within the NNPC, how that might be a welcome development. But he again expressed the views of a number of people who say that it's coming a little too late, that this is something
it could have
that should have been done at the very start, because
but
that
like they
signifies
say, it's never late. It's better late than never.
Wherever you wake up is your morning. So good morning.
Absolutely.
And the highlight for me was the low-hanging fruits he talked about in agriculture. That he would have fired the Minister of Agriculture because he doesn't understand what he's doing. And also customs and excise. I don't know, the customs in this, they're so proud, they're in such a competition to announce record-breaking revenue, 1 trillion in the first quarter. At the expense of what? If it's at the expense of development, then we don't need it, because all that money is going to go into recurrent expenditure to pay salaries and all of that. It doesn't support development. He mentioned something very critical. How can we be struggling with food security and then you still have high import duties on tractors? We don't produce tractors here, farming tools and implements and things like that until we, yes. Go. So, and things like that. And the customs is so very aggressive in their revenue drive. You receive a post, for example, a package from abroad, and you still have to pay money to retrieve it and things like that. We don't need that. We also talked about the solar panels the other day and batteries and things that will just make life easy. Very easy. Since you understand how the power sector is epileptic, let people have a decent something to cushion the effect. I mean, if air is, look, World Health Organization yesterday released a report and said 20 million Nigerians, 20 million. All the people you know, they are not up to 1 million. So imagine all of them struggling with one type of mental health or another. The World Health Organization said 20 million Nigerians are struggling with mental health issues. I believe that's even a conservative. And most of those people live in this Lagos.
Yeah, bigger. Some of them are people you know.
Yeah.
The truth is, you would have mental health when you don't eat well.
If you're hot at night, you'll be grumpy. Have you not noticed road rage? I mean, just small movement, people start cursing and honking and
I
It's
say from
mental
my own
health
personal
issues.
experience, without talking too far, I realized that I dealt with greater levels of anxiety when I lived in an apartment where I was always having light issues. That area we barely had light. Joe knew now, I would come to work grumpy, complaining. I was always sad. I had to put all my cards together and say, you know what? You have to prioritize your mental health. And when I moved somewhere else, I realized that the quality of my heart was better. Yes, I wasn't as anxious anymore because I don't know once the light comes, you're trying to iron everything. You don't know when next light will come.
That's not a way to live. That's not.
It's not. Yeah. So, I mean, while we've seen some of the progress made from the current administration, let's also announce that the State House has released its press statement. It's actually out, just in case you missed it. We're going to go through it in a bit, and then we'll ask one more question to our guests, Dr. Naimeka Obiareri. But before then, let's tell you that the State House has a press statement, and the theme is "We have made undeniable progress." That's what the theme is. And it goes on to say President Bola Tinubu's statement on the second anniversary of his administration on May 29, 2025. We're expecting that there was going to be a live address to Nigerians, which, you know, was going to be a repeat of what had happened last year. But it seems due to the logistics and every single thing, and the president being in Lagos at the moment, maybe that's the reason. Let's just say that's the reason why we did it. We don't have that live address. But then again, the statement is on X, and we would in due time also get to put it through and put it on the screen there for you to see. But let me just take some points there which would form the basis of my question to Dr. Naimeka Obiareri, who's still here with us. One of the points that the president made in this speech, as posted on X by his special advisor, talking about Bayo Onanuga, I'm going to take one of the paragraphs. He says, "We are halfway through the journey that began 24 months ago. Today, May 29, 2025, offers our administration the opportunity to share again how far we have gone in our progress in steering our country along the critical path of social economic development." Now, he went ahead to mention a whole lot, but this part is one I want to highlight. He said, "Under our renewed hope agenda, our administration pledged to tackle economic instability, improve security nationwide, reduce corruption, reform governance, and lift our people out of poverty." Now, we do agree that some of these points that the president has made in this paragraph is still some that Nigerians still hardly agree with. Now, he said inflation has begun to ease, with rice prices and other staples declining. The oil and gas sector is recovering. Rig counts are up by over 400% in 2025 compared to 2021, and over 8 billion naira in new investments have been committed. We have stabilized our economy and are now better positioned for growth and prepared to withstand global shocks. Final one. Dr. Naimeka Obiareri, I hope you're hearing and you could listen to what will lead to the question I want you to also speak on. He went ahead to say, "We're eliminating the burden of multiple taxation, making it easier for small businesses to grow and join the formal economy. The tax reforms will protect low-income households and support workers by expanding their disposable income. Essential goods and services such as food, education, and healthcare will now attract 0% VAT." So let's take note of that. He said 0% VAT. I'm going to take that line again. "The tax reforms will protect low-income households and support workers by expanding their disposable income. Essential goods and services such as food, education, and healthcare will now attract 0% VAT, value-added tax. Rent, public transportation, and renewable energy will be fully exempted from VAT to reduce household costs further." What do you make of this aspect of the presidential statement that's just been released, especially for today?
Records from NDIC and records from MPS shows clearly that over 197 million Nigerians live below the poverty threshold income of 110,000 naira per month income. The World Bank poverty threshold says that anybody who earns anything less than $64.50 a month is living under poverty. In fact, the person should be receiving social welfare grants, food stamps, and other things. In Nigeria, we have 197 million Nigerians living under such conditions. If you look at NDIC, out of the over 128 million accounts in the deposit money banks, only about 0.5% has up to 500,000 naira inside it, which is about $209. And if you look at that account, 800,000 account, you see that it may actually be multiple accounts owned by very few people. Is it not somebody that makes money, that earns revenue above poverty that you will tax? The tax reforms are good. You know, I am shocked the kind of thing this will roll out as achievements. We should be talking about productivity. We should be talking about driving up productivity. We should be talking about what do we do to secure Nigeria and to enhance food production. See, the truth is, the average Nigerian is having it rough. You see, again, they started this issue of rice coming down. Rice coming down, it was not born out of productivity. Oh, we did 2 million hectares of rice. We created 4 million jobs. We did 1,600 cottage factories, each 50 million. And then we are producing 27 million tons of parboiled rice. And we are exporting $10 billion worth of rice. And we are eating rice at 50,000, and which we can do. Why do you think it is easier for somebody from Vietnam, India, to cultivate rice and ship it to Nigeria here? And it sells at 47,000. And the person here in Nigeria cannot produce rice at any cost less than 7,000. And I will explain it to you. Firstly, the farmers here are using the seedling species that does 2 tons per hectare. The Indian man and Vietnamese guy are producing at 6 tons per hectare. You can see the variance. Inflation cost of funds in India is 9%. Cost of fund here is 35%. You borrow money from banks. And in India, they are giving them money at 2%, 5-year money with concessionary rates. There's no insecurity in Vietnam and India where farmers are beheaded. The cost of storage and if you look at it all around. So what we should be thinking about, I so much believe in the potentials of this country. And I will give them what to do. You don't know what to do. Rather than rambling about and writing all these things that even provokes Nigeria and irritate us. Because the truth that the reality on ground is different from what they are saying. Can we sell a bag of rice for 50,000? Yes, even lower than what the rent seekers are making out of it. They are bringing in rice at 7,000. They are saying at 65,000. They are making Nigerians and they are still clapping for themselves. The rice was actually 8,500 naira per 50 kg bag. When Jonathan handed over to Buhari. What do we do? Tackle insecurity. I expect them to have announced, oh, we are now going to implement this restructuring of Nigerian security. The military and the police have failed us, and that is the truth. We are going to be creating agro rangers. Like I said, that $21 billion they are borrowing, if they create 2,500 agro clusters of 1,000 hectares each in key locations across Nigeria, we have 64 million hectares of arable land mass. And they invest $6 million in each. I will show them how they will invest the money. I have the template of where they can invest it. From each cluster within this year, within 1 year, we will generate $42 million from each cluster. We will generate $109 million from each cluster. We will create 20 million jobs from these clusters. We will have 200 agro rangers fully armed with AK-47, armored personnel carriers, Kenkoso dogs, that their post is not passed on the federal government, but on the agro posts. We will be generating massive celebrity if they just do this. And then 15 billion will do it. Use the remaining 6 billion to equip these agro rangers. And for their welfare for the first 1 year before those agro parks start producing. If they do this, I tell you, in 1 year, you will look back. In fact, if they start doing this today, by May 29, 2026, by the time Tinubu is announcing, doing his speech and reading out the real tangible fact of that, people will ask him to do it in 2050 if he's here. These guys know this truth. See, there's nothing I'm saying here that is not pretty kept. They know it. This is not the first time. I give you an example. In 2019, I was at the PDP Governors Forum, and I shared with them ideas of how they can develop 1 million hectares of date palm plantation, 50,000 hectares per state. Firstly, it will help to curb desertification of the north. It will create 2 million jobs. It will create co-location centers for the pastoralists and the herders. It will help us to create a 19 billion revenue from the north. I saw them practically. Saudi Arabia in 2006 to cut desertification and create oils from wealth started date palm plantation development. From 2006 to 2023, Saudi Arabia has been able to create a date palm value chain that generates $2 trillion every year.
I mean, the truth
is the only place in the whole wide world where date grows and fruits twice naturally in the year.
Yeah.
The problem is that these in our projects are those in the States sincere, they are not serious, they don't want to do the wrong things.
And Dr. Obiari, the truth is, I mean, these are very valid points that you've highlighted here. We know that there's so much that still needs to be done. We're hoping that before the end of this show, we'll keep highlighting what we've done right, what needs to be done right, and also give the Nigerian masses an opportunity to share their thoughts on the show. But we thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you, Dr. Obiari.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll now go on a very quick break. When we come back, we still will be reviewing the 2 years in office of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And to remind you that you can be a part of the show, you just need to tweet at us at News Central TV or tweet at us individually. See you in a moment.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. The past 2 years, owing to several challenges, this administration has seen several protests, from labor union demonstrations to multiple hunger protests, as well as numerous insecurity protests. Beyond the physical protests, they've also seen social media protests, especially when government critics or journalists were arrested. It's no doubt that this administration has had it tough with Nigerians.
Well, in assessing President Tinubu's scorecard, we will now look closely on matters of governance, issues of human rights, and how the judiciary, the police as well, are perceived under the administration. Joining us for this discussion, we do have a human rights lawyer who will be joining us very, very soon. But for now, the director of Enough is Enough Nigeria, Opeyemi Ademaleko, is here with us. Good morning. Thanks for making it here regardless of the heavy downpour.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. So 2 years, and we could say it's the first half. 2 more years to go, the second half. How would you rate the governance, especially when it relates to the people and when it relates to people expressing how they feel about the way things are going?
Number one, I will actually not say we're halfway through. I think we're almost at the end. Simple reason, it's campaign season. I mean, if you in Lagos on 3rd Mainland Bridge, we already have banners. In Abuja,
even in Abuja as well.
Abuja is even not just banners; they're full-on billboards. There's I think a free transportation thing. I'm not sure if it started, but you see them branding buses for free transportation. So if a government is already in campaign mode 2 years in advance, number one. Number two, if opposition, quote and unquote, as weak as they are even, I don't even know the English word, but they're even demonstrating how non-opposition they are by collapsing into the APC, either defecting or staying in APC or in PDP, but pledging full support for the APC. It shows you clearly they were in campaign season. I'm not quite sure this is 2 year half mark, but anyway, in terms of the calendar, we'll call it 2 years. But I think the main issues for the areas you've highlighted is that this is a government that doesn't do well with dissent. It doesn't do well with citizens expressing how upset they are. I think the most recent one I would say will be the NYSC student who just went online to say that things were expensive. And she got slammed from people digging up her videos that she's enjoying Lagos. The fact that I can go to dinner with my friends and enjoy myself does not negate the fact that egg is now more expensive. So why people thought that was a thing to slam her on, I don't know. Then she got a call from NYSC, literally threatening her. Call. Exactly. And Iniebe, who will be here later, and Showore went to represent her. Nobody was there. But I think, and that for me segues into not only does the administration
but that wasn't state sanctioned.
Sorry?
It wasn't state sanctioned.
But when did they, and I agree with you that it might not have been state sanctioned, but in silence, it became state sanctioned. And that's what I was about to say, that all the state needed to do was for the DG to say, no, I mean, this is not, to your point, this is not state sanctioned, or say, we recognize that things are expensive. That's all they needed to do, silence. And so that for me then leads to the general attitude of the administration, not just in not tolerating dissent, but also not engaging citizens as equal stakeholders in this community or in this nation. Everybody from President Tinubu to your local government councillor has a job because citizens voted for them. That's all. That's why your job is called a public servant. You serve the public. And I think if that is the posture that the government takes, it would engage citizens different. It would communicate differently. And I'm sure, I haven't watched the show this morning, but I'm sure you've talked about quite a number of things that have happened. There's the student loan, there's the increase of minimum wage, there's the tax reform bills. There are quite a number of things that you would say this administration has done without a shadow of a doubt. But you're doing it in a sense in one side. In another side, you're telling citizens they don't matter and you don't really care. And then not taking the time to stitch together these points to create a compelling narrative of how you are renewing our hope, since that's the slogan. So that'll be my kind of...
I mean, I also want to reference the analogy that you used, the situation of Rita,
thank you.
Yes, the NYC lady. Part of the argument against her, because it was a full-on conversation here, and part of the argument against her actions was because she said the president is a terrible president. So how do we then draw that fine line? Because they would argue, some people would argue that you're defaming these persons, you're defaming the president, or, you know, and I hear you when you say that the current administration doesn't seem to take dissent lightly. If we look at some of the issues of press freedom, a number of journalists have complained about not being allowed to do their job or being invited for questioning when they share certain stories. So how, as citizens, can we guarantee that we find that fine line between defamation and actually holding the government to account?
So, thank you. I'm not a lawyer, so I won't attempt to define what defamation is. But telling that the president is terrible, for me, is not defamation, and I will say it. He's been a terrible president as far as I am concerned, because my life has not improved. So if I use, based on the metrics of the cost of living, insecurity, what the brand Nigeria means abroad, as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you have not improved my life. Now, saying that as a statement of fact, I don't see that as defamation. Now, if I say that the president has 4 wives and has 10 children outside of the known ones, you can sue me, I guess, for lying, or I guess lying would be defamation, because I'm making categorical statements that are not true. But saying that my life hasn't improved I mean, or things are more expensive. Not say that, because the president doesn't control if my life has improved or not, actually. So let me watch my words. But saying that things have become more expensive, saying that it's become a bit more challenging security-wise in the country, saying that I'm from Ondo State, saying traveling by road in Nigeria has become more treacherous in certain parts of the country, those are statements of fact. And I don't think you can call me for defaming you in that regard.
Now, would you say...
And sorry, just to add, and before that, and just to see then what happened. Now, they did that to Rita, and it sparked off a challenge. And everybody was then saying he's terrible. So please, how many people do you want to sue? Or put in jail?
So how do citizens, which is the second part of my question, then ensure that they constantly hold the government to account? I mean, EIE says the office, and reminds us that the office of the citizen is the highest office of the land. So how do citizens now be in that position where they can demand for more without feeling like whatever form of dissent or seeming oppression holds them down?
And I think so, segueing from the social media response to Rita, citizens, especially on social media, tend to feel a bit safer. Because shortless of banning Twitter, like they've tried to do in the past, there's a limit to how the government can cap voice on social media spaces. So that's an easy to-go-to place. But in other areas is organizing in communities. And it's not just about Mr. President, we say this as well. There's some things that are purely your local government responsibility. We see it in Lagos now, by the way. If you're in Lagos, local government chairmen are working because elections are coming. So if you have issues, go and meet them now. You'll more likely sort it out. I mean, in my office, where it's actually an interesting challenge. Somebody's street lights have been fixed. Somebody's road has been fixed. I think 2 people.
We're having elections every month.
Seriously. So please, little hack for those in Lagos. This is the time to get stuff done. But just to the point that from local government to state government, state house of assembly, there are different people that have different responsibilities. So a starting point is engaging at that level. Mr. Tinubu is not responsible for everything that's going wrong.
Now, would you say, looking at the president's antecedents and from his Nadeco days, he was also a vehement critic of the military government who went in exile, to what we're seeing today, and also the fact that we're 26 years into uninterrupted democratic experience, you think we would have weaned ourselves off the military rule, but the civic space is shrinking, and we've also seen laws like the Cybercrime Act being used to quash dissent, to stifle people from speaking their minds. Is this common? Would you blame Mr. President? Because we know the president can't simply know every single case that is happening in the country, or it's the heads of these agencies that are in charge. For example, I find it very laughable that the EFCC is so concerned about naira defamation. They're not the CBN, they're not the Nigerian Security and Payment in the midst of all the corruption that we have, and it's not that they're just saying it; they're aggressively pursuing it and parading people. They're so proud of catching people for defaming the naira.
So when we come back from this break, we'll have you answer that question. Let's go on a very quick break right now.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central, our special 2-year anniversary of the Tinubu administration broadcast that we still have here in the studio. Opeyemi Ademoleko. We're joined by a human rights lawyer, Inibe Effiong. A warm welcome and thanks for joining us on this special broadcast.
Good morning, good to be here. Happy 2 years. I've been wishing everybody happy 2 years.
Before we went,
I'm sure on the streets of Lagos, those guys will be saying, 2 years.
Yes.
I don't know how they do it.
It's another issue we need to talk about. Now, before we went to the break, I did highlight Mr. President's antecedents from Nadeco, and seeing him as a progressive Democrat, you would think there will be more freedom of speech and information around, but we've seen a reversal of that. It's almost reminiscent of when military rule. They had the Cybercrime Act. You have individuals picking up other individuals for what they said on social media and things like that. And I wonder, because there's a disconnect between who we think the president is and what is happening. Yeah. Is this a policy direction, or we just have heads of agencies and individuals that just doing this out of their own volition? And do you expect the president to step in at some point?
Well, either he's giving it as a policy directive, or he's oblivious or choosing not to pay attention. Either way, he's responsible. So it's either by silence or by actively encouraging it. He's still the one behind the scenes. And you're right. I think it is interesting for his antecedents to be someone that doesn't like dissent. But I think it's also understandable maybe in two ways, I would say. Number one, he's clear that he didn't really have the support of Nigerians. And so if he really lets Nigerians fully express themselves in terms of how they feel about him unchecked, it might be problematic for him. And then secondly, it's also a reflection of the fact that Nigeria is very much centrally governed. So even though we say we're a federation of federating units, i.e. the states, we're still very much governed in a very unitary, quasi-military way. So everything is still very centrally directed. So the DSS chief is trying to please him. The IG of police is trying to please him. And so everything is tied around him. And you also see how the laws are used indiscriminately. So I'll use Natasha's case as an example. She has filed, I think, 3 petitions for her safety against Akpabio, Yahya Bello. None of them are being prosecuted. But the federal government has chosen to sue her for defaming Akpabio. And I'm just like, are you jobless? And this is the same thing we're talking about. In the grand scheme of everything that's needed in this country, EFCC is chasing people spraying money. Meanwhile,
police is chasing tint permit.
Hallelujah. Yeah. Meanwhile, they are not chasing the CBN or the banks. If I go to the bank, to get mint notes is like walking through the eye of a needle. Yeah. But there is no party you are arriving in Lagos today. The mint notes will be there in any currency you're looking for. But we're not dealing with those structural issues. Exactly. And we're chasing people, as someone said, that it's a cultural norm in Nigeria to spray. So why are we criminalizing that in a sense? But the summary of that is, either way you dice it, the president is responsible. And I choose to believe that he is not only aware, he's given tacit consent for his agencies to make minor things major.
Well, that's a deep one. Anyway, let's go to Inebe now. We'll come back to you again. In the past 2 years, would you say that the rights of every single Nigerian has had one or two infringements here or there? We've seen you being active in the past 2 years as well, ensuring that you speak truth to power one way or the other. How would you rate the president's 2 years in office when it comes to human rights infringement?
Thank you.
Why do you look so sad?
I mean, it's 2 years, come on.
Maybe my face reflects our collective sadness.
Oh.
I don't think this president promised Nigerians free speech. It would be unfair to him to expect this president to respect the rights of Nigerians to free speech. However, we must make demands of this government. What we have seen in the last 2 years, for me, is basically a continuation of the culture of suppression of dissent. The way to understand it is to look at the antecedents of Tinubu as a person. I don't know much about his Nandekuku agitations or his involvement in pro-democracy struggle, because that itself is a subject of debate. If you heard what Patotomi said recently, at the same time, I don't want to downplay whatever effort he may have made. But what is important to me as a Nigerian in this generation is the role that this president, Mr. Tinubu, has played in either enriching or undermining our democratic process. If you look at his tenure as governor of Lagos State from 1999 to 2007, you may want to really ask, did President Tinubu as governor of Lagos State allow for dissent? Did he allow for plurality of views? Did he accommodate diversity in the politics of Lagos? The answer is no. It has always been a one-party person. The governance of Lagos under him was always revolved around him, and that is why many years after he has left, from Fashola to Ambode, now to Governor Sanwo-Olu, Lagos is still under the strong grip of Tinubu. So if you have somebody who has that kind of background as president of a country, it is common sense to expect that he will continue in that pattern. And that is what we are seeing now at the national level, that under this president, Nigerians are being denied the barest minimum in terms of free speech. The Buhari regime had brought very terrible dictatorship on the country. We saw a situation where even our courts, the precinct of our courts, were desecrated. Under this president, some matters at the Federal High Court are still being subjected to the same atmosphere of impunity, where the day that Nnamdi Kanu is being taken to court, for example, you see the SSS. Meanwhile, I don't like calling them DSS. Yeah. Yes. It is also part of a way of protesting the impunity in the country. That name is, we have to insist on their correct name. You see the SSS go to basically checkmate who can access the courts, deny people access to courts. That is also an infringement of
judiciary acts as the guardrails for our democracy. Why are they not doing something about this infringement?
It is for the judiciary to answer. But what I am telling you as a Nigerian is that this government has no respect for freedom of expression. The media is being targeted. Journalists are being tried. Bloggers are being targeted. Nigerians on social media, you know, like the case of Raya that you mentioned, a core member who basically went on social media to air a grievance about what is admittedly the poor governance of the country. She was targeted. We saw the students, I think in Delta State,
Yes.
Now we are reading that she has fell like arms. Curiously. So Nigerians may want to know whether our script was fairly marked, because we know what happens behind the scene in this country. We are seeing a situation where someone that says he's the last president, was basically abducted, tortured, and then came out to make statements implicating the son of the president. Soon after, the State Security Service abducted him. We are hearing that he was meant to recant the statement he had made. As I'm having this interview with you, his whereabouts is still unknown. That is not a country that has respect for freedom of expression. That is not a country whose president can lay claim to being a Democrat. There is nothing democratic about this president. And if you look at even the manner of governance, the old madness that is going on at the political scene, where everybody seems to be coalescing, behind the behemoths called the APC. It is also a demonstration of the intolerance for dissent. Why do you think everybody is running to the APC today? Because there is no plurality of views. There is no accommodation for dissent.
Okay.
That is why you see all the governors, even though that is also partly because the so-called opposition that are supposed to be opposing, they are just opposition in name.
All right, let's talk about opposition, and I want you to speak to the legality, and then I want you to speak to maybe the effect of a shadow government. Patutomi had talked about the shadow government. The DSS had come for him because of that, and they're saying that he's running an opposition government. He says that the reason for this shadow government, which he says is not new, as he had spoken to President Yaradua at the time about the shadow government in 2008, but they're criticizing it, saying that we're not running a parliamentary system of government, we're running a presidential system of government. So how viable is a tool like the shadow government to stand as some form of a viable opposition? And them kicking against it now, do you see it as a form of, again, not being tolerant of dissenting voices? That's to you, Mr. Adamulekun, and then to you, Nibehe, the legality or otherwise of establishing shadow government. But let's hear you first, ma'am.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it, to be honest. And I think, just to your point, it's, again, an example of an administration that does not condone dissent. Because at the heart of it, think about it. If you have very confident of your policies, you think you're doing good by the Nigerian people, and you think, given the resources available and human and financial available, you are serving the Nigerian people in the best way possible. If anybody wants to set up a shadow government, I would actually encourage it, because at the end of it, you will not find that much to talk. You might find a few things, because no administration is perfect, but you won't find that much to talk about. But I think they're actually worried of what they will start talking about, because, and I think this is really where Professor Otomi might have an ace in this strategy. As Inibia said, PDP, as we've always said, is two sides of the same coin as the APC. Then there's Labour, then there's SDP, then there's ADC, a few of the smaller parties. What the shadow government has the potential to do is bring them together under one umbrella, and then provide a platform for plurality of ideas. So we think this is the way we should run the economy. We've looked at it, and we think it will work better this way. Because what it should do is engender discussion, and engender looking at ultimately, how best do we run Nigeria? But obviously, this administration is not interested in figuring out how best we run Nigeria, because I don't know why the SSS is afraid of citizens who want the shadow government. Nobody elected them. They're not running elections.
Maybe the name is what they're scared of. Government.
They should get over themselves. I am a local government. By the time I provide my own water, do my own waste disposal, provide my own light, provide my own security, I am a government. I will not clear. So if I can be a government, if people now want to get together and give themselves that name, the question is, what are you afraid of? Really, what SSS, I beg.
Possibly
they're
could be
kidnapping.
Hijacked, and it could be hijacked. Maybe that's one of the things.
That's always the same thing. When we want to organize protests, you come on air, we have intel that is going to be hijacked. Can you go after the hijackers? Since you have the intel, free hijackers, go after them. But I think it's just this whole, it's like, as one says, the guilty are always afraid.
Anyway, let's talk about.
I mean, I want him to speak to it as well, because I'd asked you to speak to the legal angle, the legality of it.
No, what the exercise is doing is a manifestation of redundancy.
Jobless.
The problem is that, And that explains the killings in the country. That you have the State Security Service, an agency established under the National Security Agencies Act. It's supposed to be an intelligence gathering agency, by the way. The fact that we see the SSS every day, basically doing traffic work, carrying handbag for girlfriends of politicians, engaging in all sort of things. When you say something against the politician, they come after you. We are not supposed to be seeing them every day.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be invincible. They're not supposed to be so visible like the regular police. So what do they mean? Who is the Minister of Petroleum in the shadow government? Who is the Attorney General in the shadow government? Who is the Minister of Finance in the shadow government? You have to tell us. Because when you're in a shadow government, properly so-called, like we have in the UK, for example, you have a shadow minister, all the portfolios are well designated. So in this part, we told me shadow government, that the SSS, the very serious law enforcement agency that we have in Nigeria, has gone to court. It's a busybody lawsuit, by the way, that they have gone to court to challenge. They should come out and tell us who the ministers in the shadow government are. And by the way, shadow government is not a parallel government.
Exactly.
I don't know what they are talking about. Where is the secretariat of the shadow government? Have they held their first cabinet meeting? What is their budget? Do they have a national assembly, a parliament? Is there a senate president in this shadow government? This is a product of unseriousness. How unserious we have become as a country. That you have the state security, people actually sat down at the SSS headquarters and then reached a division that we should go to court.
They have
because Patudomi says he wants to form a shadow government. I mean,
and it's not the fact that the shadow government has done anything that you are now saying that this is bad.
I mean, what is wrong?
Just a thought.
Well, they say that it's contrary to Section 1, subsection 1,
it is
2,
not.
and Section 14, subsection 2A of the 1999.
I'm familiar with those sections. What those sections says is that nobody shall take control of the government of Nigeria except in the manner established by the Constitution. Has the shadow government appointed an Inspector General of Police? Have they appointed service chiefs? Have they made appointments? Where is the shadow government that they are talking about? I'm saying that this is a product of unseriousness. People have made up their minds that they will never be serious in this country.
Now let's talk about...
Sorry, just to add to your point, and again to your point earlier about is the president aware or he's not aware. This is a classic example. The fact that SSS sat down, as we said, decided they were going to go to court, and then the president is not saying, you daft, dumb or stupid. Like, is this what I'm asking you guys to do?
The Attorney General must have signed off on that. Yes.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about one of the sub points of this administration, and it's not just this administration, it's been a historical thing. Nigerian police, you were here, you brought the young man that was put in Kirikiri for apparently no reason, and week after week there's stories of police brutality, extortion, stray bullets. Some have suggested that the name of the Nigerian police force should be changed to Nigerian Police Services. Some have even suggested that maybe the dark uniform, if you watch African Magic, black is synonymous with darkness, that they should give them pink uniform and they should wear shorts.
How about white?
That will be humble. Now on a serious note, from extortion to checkpoints and everything, what can we do? Because it's tiring. Every other week we're discussing stories of one rogue policeman or the other. We know there are bad eggs in different organizations, but the entire police force can't just be filled with bad eggs.
And just to add to what you're saying, is it that it has gotten worse, or we're just reporting it more?
The police is irreformable. I have said this, and I'm ready to debate this. The police cannot reform itself. Anybody in this country that is expecting the Nigerian police force to reform itself is just wishful thinking.
So what will reform it if they cannot reform themselves?
Only a president that is interested in changing Nigeria can reform it.
I mean, Mikhail Saakashvili
and I'm going to explain. Yes. I'm going to drive home that point.
All right.
The reason why I'm insisting that the police is irreformable is that the rot has become a lifestyle. It has become so entrenched that if you try to do what is right within the system, people look at you strangely, like if you are falling from the moon. Now, you have a country where, if you look at what the Constitution says, in terms of the structure of the police and how the police is supposed to function, you look at Section 214 and 215 of the Constitution, and also look at the Police Act. Because before that they were saying, oh, the problem was the legislation. We used to have P19, loss of the Federation 2004, that is the repealed Police Act. We now have a new Police Act 2020. Many Nigerians have not bothered to look at the new Police Act. The new Police Act has introduced a lot of reforms. So many things have been abolished that we not get addressed in the previous Police Act, but nothing has changed. So the problem is not legislative. Mm-hmm. And then we have the Police Service Commission. But who is the head of the Police Service Commission? Retired. It has now become retired IGPs. Mm. These people that were IGPs, what was their antecedent, track record when they were in the police? Now, why I am insisting that only the President of Nigeria can reform the police is because, quite sadly, like Yemi said, Nigeria has been, we have this very deceptive structure that we say, oh, federal republic, whereas we're actually a unitary republic. Everything revolves around the president. If you, as commander-in-chief, you come into office and you make up your mind that you are not going to tolerate the violation of the rights of Nigerians, you are not going to tolerate extrajudicial killing, and you read the riot act to the... And I've said how this can be done. Let the president hold a meeting today. We have a body called Nigeria Police Council that has become redundant and useless. Because the Nigeria Police Council is supposed to basically have checks over the police, made up of the president and governors. Because the police, the way it is supposed to be function, is not just supposed to be solely under the control of the president. The governors are supposed to have a say. Let the president call the meeting of the Nigeria Police Council, made up of the president, the governors, and the IG, and make it clear that in any state where a extrajudicial killing takes place, the commissioner of police of that state will be sanctioned, will be removed. It is this absence of a culture of consequence that has resulted in these killings. But we all know, right, that when these killings takes place and there is outrage, they'll try to isolate it and make it about the officer who fired the bullets. No, this is a systemic problem. And because the president is not interested in reforming the country, that is why he has not taken steps to reform the police. Look at the NSAS panel reports. Has it been implemented? The answer is no. Has any police officer been dismissed on account of the report of the NSAS? The answer is no. So you see that the reason is, and it is deliberate. The moment you fix the police, you have solved 50% of the crime problem in our country. The reason why we are even making reference to EFCC and ICBC, the reason why these agencies have to be established was because the police are fair. The police has failed. If the police is functioning today, many of the problems we have in this country will not exist. The police accounts for over 75% of cases of human rights violation in our country today. The police is now, even criminals now work with the police, and it has become, when you are driving on the road in this country and you see police checkpoints, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Anxiety. Is it a sense of safety? No. You are anxious. Are they going to extort me? Are they going to shoot me? Why is it so? Because there is complete lawlessness in the system. Nobody is checkmating anybody. All what we are seeing is just cosmetic reform. This story is not the name. Yes, we can remove
like the correctional services.
That's the reference I want to make. It was Nigerian prisons, and they said, that is a cake. Let's change to Nigeria Correctional Service. Is there anything correctional about the correctional service today? If you can change the uniform from black to white, the darkness is in the heart.
So I suggest
it is in the blood. It's in the bloodstream.
The content remains the same.
The darkness in the police is in the bloodstream. It's not the uniform. And I am submitting to you that if you are going to change the police, it will only take a president that believes in the rule of law. And they are intentional in leaving the police flawed because they need police to rig elections. They need police to antagonize their opponents. They need police to be able to subvert the law. So that is why they have left police and encouraged the police to remain as lawless as it is.
Can we add to? Can we add to the fact that there are serious calls of not being able to see separate interests, especially from we've seen the executives, we've seen those in the National Assembly.
No separation of powers.
And no separation. It seems like everybody's working together. How would you rate that in 2 years? I mean, we've never seen it like this before, where it seems like there's no devolution of power.
It's kumbaya, everybody's happy.
Who's surprised?
Big families.
Who is surprised?
One big happy family.
One
like
big
this
happy.
question.
Who is surprised? I remember in the early
And Senator Fabio says we don't have to antagonize. We don't have to fight
where
ourselves.
those in the National Assembly, there was spar.
Yeah.
You know, when they speak, people, Nigerians were. I remember I had an uncle who always say, "Oh, don't worry. Once it gets to the National Assembly, we're certain that they will sit on it. They will." But is it any different in the past 2 years?
I shouldn't be surprised though, because as a society, we've normalized the abnormal. And it's the same thing we're just seeing reflected in government. I mean, I love Olive's point. It's now we're in collabo mode because it's become very expensive to raise your head above the crowd. And as Inebe said, that you align because nobody wants an EFCC rap sheet. Nobody wants SSS looking for them. So in the interest of just maintaining peace, everybody is aligning. And I just wanted to buttress Iniebe's point about the role of the president in the police. We've seen, I think, over the last 3 or 4 administrations, when we have a new police come in, the IG they appoint is an IG that will do as they are told. And so even if that requires them retiring 10 levels of police above them, to get to one man, because you can't have an IG of police that's more senior in the sense that's junior, so they have to promote him, and then they retire everybody above him. So first of all, in terms of securing the nation, you first of all make redundant institutional knowledge. If you are interested in security, those are your assets. You pack them to the side. Then you promote one man that will do as you please. But even in Egbetokun's case, his retirement age came. We said, no, it's okay. Let him continue. I mean, so if there's any type of body language that we want to signal around what we feel about the police, it doesn't get any louder than that.
I mean, speaking about Kayode Egbetokun, we had seen protests where Showore had led protests. People were asking him to resign and step down. But as it is with a number of cases in Nigeria, there's just a little noise. After a while, we move on to whatever the next trending story is. We are out of time. 30 seconds each. What can be done to renew your hope for, protecting the rights of Nigerian citizens, since we're talking about a renewed hope agenda?
I don't like the word. It is duplicitous.
It's English.
It is duplicity. When they say renew hope, it presupposes that there is hope.
But the
That
hope is there.
Buhari had given Nigerians hope. Tinubu came, and I started quarreling with that campaign mantra, that there is something fraudulent about it. You are saying hope you want to renew. What is the hope that you want to renew? We know how Buhari left this country.
On what foundation?
Yes, what are you renewing? But on a more serious note, speaking to the issue of what looks like amalgamation of undemocratic forces within the organs of government, nobody should be surprised. I don't know much about the Speaker of the House of Reps, but Akpabio, who was my governor for 8 years, Akpabio, under whose dictatorship as governor I had to leave. People think, oh, Buhari was the tyrant, oh, Tinubu is dictatorial. Have you met Gospel Akpabio? You cannot have a conversation and you disagree with him. No. So what is the whole Natasha thing? It's surprising to those who don't understand him. I know, I can write a book about this man. As far as the national, because he's the leader of the National Assembly, as far as the National Assembly under Akpabio is concerned, is to remain on your mandate National Assembly. And they will sing it to the last day. The only thing that Akpabio will not do for Tinubu is the one that will personally make him lose that position. I don't think that is going to happen. We are dealing with a country now where the most undemocratic forces have taken the reins of power. So I don't want to speak about hope. I can only speak about Nigerians organizing. We have to just stop complaining. Time is running out. Look at what is going on. Inflation has taken over the country. People are dying of hunger, and already they are talking about 2027. They've started a cycle of insane endorsements all over the place. They have gone into full campaign mode. It is insane what is going on. That there are urgent issues to be addressed, and we wake up every year to hear this group has endorsed Tinubu. It's concerned. So what is going on in our country? Nigerians must organize. Now they are forming a coalition of wicked people. Nigerians must form their own coalition of the people. We need a coalition of Nigerians, a coalition of the hungry. Because what is all these things they are talking about? It's a coalition that you have PDP governors all moving to the APC. That is an amalgamation.
I mean, they are moving to the center so that they can be connected to the
Look
center.
at even my own governor. Look at my own state governor, Umoino. He's going to defect.
It hasn't moved.
It's not would defect.
No, he's moving. He's already told them you either move.
It would defect in June.
Yes.
To see the extent of insanity in our country. The governor just a few days ago donated Land Cruiser Prado to all members of the National Assembly from my state. 6 House of Reps, 3 senators. These are people that are overpaid. Each of those vehicles, the latest one, costs close to 350 million.
And they already have
Close to 350 million. And they already have official vehicles.
These vehicles Nigeria made.
How can it be Nigeria?
Even if it was Nigeria made.
So he has spent over 1.3 trillion to buy vehicles for members of the National Assembly who are not making laws for the state. He has also bought the same vehicle for the PDP chairman in Akwa Ibom, for the APC chairman in the state, and the one of IPAC, the chairman of IPAC in Akwa Ibom. Why will our politicians be so brazen in this manner? All because he's laying the groundwork to join the festival of destroying our country called... Yeah, I mean, it is terrible what is going on.
I mean,
it is insane what is going on.
It's not just because they're joining the ground, it's also because there's no cost. If your governor walks into a room today, people will get up and clap for him. They will honor him, quote and unquote, as the governor of the state. Look, we need to get to a point where in our different ways, we find a way to protest these things. And it doesn't have to be necessary to be on the street. If the governor enters the room and everybody in the room sits down, will they have SSS arrest all of us?
Will that time ever come? So which leads me to the question that I asked. How do we as citizens hold, what do we need to do differently to hold the government accountable? It seems like the protests haven't had as much effect as they would have, and they have been stifling the protest. So what can citizens do?
So I think there's still hope. Differently. So not their own version of hope, but hope that citizens need to decide or choose to believe that they deserve better. Look, there are no, regardless of what it is, if you add SSS to police, to military, Nigeria does not have enough security forces to clamp down citizens who are tired. And I think until we are tired, because at the end of the day, they are doing their thing. And we can complain about them all they want.
Yes.
But we can see that they will continue to do what they're doing because, again, there is no cost. We have to make this impunity expensive. Very, very expensive. And it's not in big things. It's in the little actions that we take from the ones we know that are family members, because all of us have family members in government, to the ones that...
Extended, you might have.
Extended.
Check your family tree.
Check your family, you'll be surprised. To those that we are not even related to, but we have access to or we're engaged. There are actions that citizens must just decide in the ways that we engage speaking, in silent things as in not applauding, and also just talking and pushing back. Talking should not be just in Area and I. Religious institutions, community organizers, women's group, private sector, we have to decide we deserve better. Simple.
Wow. Great conversations here. I wish we had more time, but of course, we'll still extend this conversation around the clock. I want to thank you so much, Nebe, for
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go on a
I
quick
hope
break.
you have time for anybody to tell us why it's not DSS, but SSS.
Yes. No, we'll have to bring him back on
illegally.
we'll bring him back on the show, most importantly. But stay with us. We'll go on a quick break. After that, we'll be looking at more conversations as we assess 2 years of President Bola Tinubu.
We're still accessing 2 years of President Bola Tinubu. We've looked at human rights, we've looked at the economy, and now it's time to look at the political structure. As we've seen that it might seem that the political map is being redrawn. The ruling APC is tightening its grip, boosted by high-profile defections and early moves to secure 2027. Meanwhile, the opposition seems to be fragmented with internal rifts, weak structures, and urgent calls for unity. There's growing concerns over a one-party system within the political party crisis and the uprising of coalition movements. Now let's take an overview of where the ruling party stands and whether it has done well enough to be considered for a second term, looking forward and following some of the endorsements given to the president in the past few weeks. We're joined this morning by the convener of the alternative movement, Otumba Segun Shomi. Good morning, good to have you. Happy 2 years anniversary.
Well, it's nice to see you guys. Good morning.
I don't respond happy 2 years back to me.
I'd rather we said happy 26th year anniversary of democracy.
Okay.
Because under that context, one can say at least we've had a stable democracy. But if you wanted me to say happy 2 years anniversary, the question I'll ask you is what am I celebrating?
Okay. Now let's talk about what you might be celebrating, the political scene. And, you know, there have been a lot of movement and defections from your party to the ruling All Progressives Congress. Again, the conversation about Nigeria being a one-party state, or likely inch into a one-party state has come up. But there have been people who have spoken about, even the president himself has said these people are not being forced to come to the party, and they're very welcome to the party. We've seen Ganduje speak about it as well. But let's get your thoughts on how politics is being run, and if you share those same sentiments or concerns about Nigeria inching closer to a one-party state.
First of all, I think that the number of people decamping is a bit exaggerated because you haven't done the numbers, you haven't counted.
And you haven't left.
And wait a minute, you haven't done the numbers and you haven't counted. We created a certain type of democracy in 1999. And one of the consequences of the type of democracy we created is what is now beginning to stare us in the eyes. What is that? Rather than accept that political parties are the vehicles and the owners of the suffrage of election, we inadvertently created a cult of human personality, such that if the first party, my party, won in 1999, the political inflections and attitude resembled the character of Olusegun Obasanjo. And when we passed the baton, with its own consequences, when we passed the baton to Yar'Adua, fortunately it didn't live so long, then it went to Jonathan. The political inflection and attitude began to resemble the character of Jonathan, with his own inflections and advantage. Then after 15 years, 16 years, for reasons best known to the APC, in democracy, they opted again for a cult of human personality and transferred power to a former military officer whose only life is being a military officer, as the leader of the new democratic movement called APC. And that then brought another, its own consequence and its own attitude. Now we have, of course, President Bola Tinubu, their party, never mind the fact that it was some form of coalition, now resembles the inflection and the attitude of Bola Tinubu. And if you flip it to the opposition, when they all left the party in 2015 because of the loss, never mind that people jump around in Nigeria, for the same reason I told you, we had a Wike who stood by and supported the party, so somehow they copied some attitude because of his own character, attitude and inflection. Then Atiku Abubakar, former vice president, got the ticket in 2019 and 2019. See, there's nothing wrong with our democracy. It's us that something is wrong with. And it's not us as in the younger ones. It is that generation of men who, in my opinion, seem to be mismanaging the sacrifice of Shehu Musa Yar'Adua. And I'll tell you why. It was Shehu Musa Yar'Adua after the election of, what's it called, Shagari, when it got destroyed by the Buhari regime and all that. He was the one who was of the view that, look, since Nigeria became an independent country in 1960, all efforts to have us have politics that will cut across ethnicity wasn't working. So he gathered young people, Atiku, Bola Tinubu, a lot of young people of that generation. They were young. And he said to them, all the politics of our country is too tribal. Let us now build a bridge across both the Niger and the Benue, so that perhaps this country will not resemble the politics of Azikwe is Igbo, Obafemi is Yoruba, and that kind of thing. That experiment started. June 12 happened. June 12 provided the energy for that experiment now to now be, people demanded.
NRCSD.
With this experiment, because Abiola won, whatever, will this experiment work only when it favors the North? And that threw the country into another direction until we now got to 1999. And the experiment seems to have worked because we have agreed psychologically that there's a pendulum. If it swings to the north, it's 8 years. If it swings to the south, it's 8 years. An accident of life, somebody died, happened with Yar'Adua. We then created a great opportunity for the South-South, which had been crying that they can't be the one producing all the resources and not be able to. Luckily, Obasanjo was wise enough to have put somebody there, Jonathan, who then became
the president.
And that then gave us the opportunity to say, we don't have that kind of huge agitation from Mr. Hassan. But we have a Southeastern agitation. What are we going to do with it? So at the 2-year mark of the president, anybody who tells you that they are going to create a one-party state is just a very lazy person. There are 93 million registered voters, collected PVC 80-something million. Of that 80-something million, you know that over 4 years, 3 generations of people, the ones that were 16, that were 17, the ones that were 16, and the ones that were 15, will be migrated into the election pool. You know that, right? So that means that some people would have died, but the numbers will plus or minus. We have a young population, median age of more. You'll be more, that's right. Median age of our country is about maybe 17 plus. So that means that every 5 years or every 4 years, we can, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How can somebody that is serious be screaming and shouting, one party state, one party state, because the president today is in charge? Okay, even if you want to look at his numbers, President Bola Tinubu, Mr. President, happy anniversary to you. He had a couple of governors, maybe 22. Then Wiki and the gang, 5 of them, including Sheyi, that is not trying to be clever by half, they all decided that they are not going to support their own party. Under normal circumstances, if they are not copied that terrible attitude I mentioned, would it even have been visible for them to say that? And had the party been run by somebody that is a little bit aware,
there will be sanctions.
No. Would they even have been allowed to retain their own tickets? So you don't want to support a candidate, oh, well, that's fine. Please go and look for tickets elsewhere. Exactly. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
The party managers in their beyond madness, imagine that there was a conversation on the table that can tolerate that you will say you are in our party, but you are not supporting our candidate, and we're supporting
openly.
You. Well, even if it is not openly. You see, what I'm trying to tell you, my friends, is that this democracy is 26 years. We can accept that the generation of men that carried down the Yaradua experiment, they have gotten to their peak. One of them is the president now, and therefore we can say, okay, human nature, everything considered, that experiment has worked to an extent. But we are now at a point, after 25 years, a quarter of a century, over by 26, we are at a point where we must rethink the democracy. Otherwise, we're going to be in a perpetual state of anger. When a government comes and says, this is my policy, you may not accept the policy, but you cannot begrudge them what the consequences of their policy will mean. If you say, I'm going to remove subsidy, for instance, what other drama is there other than removing it? When you remove the subsidy, it simply means there's going to be some knock-on effect on policy. Now, if you now double down by saying, okay, that's one problem I've solved. Another problem is that this currency fluctuation and all, I want to stop going to borrow money to back currency. If you do that, it will produce some consequences. That is the necessary consequence of a market-driven economy, which you all say you are going to run. I have always said, what you call the market, capitalism, rent-seeking and all that, is just one system of government. A nation like ours must run a mixed ideological drive towards sustaining the living standard and the minimum safety net of the citizens while you are doing the market economy. And if you are looking for where to find an example, go to China. Because they started out by wanting to be 100% protected, and then they started opening. Russia opened up immediately, they are still struggling. China did incremental opening up, and they're a big country. So I think that generation, the generation of men that have been reading us, they are the same ones the ones that caused us the problem of June 12. They are the same ones that did 1999. They are the same ones that did 2007. They are the ones that did 11. They are the same ones that jump and did 2015. They are the same ones that came and did 2019. They are doing, and then they want to tell us they want to do 2027. So we tell them no, enough.
I don't really believe that no would hold water. This no that you're saying, because even this, you talk about the median age of young people. I'm sorry, Benga. You talk about the median age of young people in Nigeria being, about 17, and you're saying we have a younger population every 4 years. There seems to be a growing discontent amongst younger people.
Yes.
So do you see them really being able to come together, put their voices together?
Why do you think I started the alternative? I sat down and I reflected and I researched. And I came to the conclusion that if we're not careful, we're going to go to war with ourselves in this country. Because how long can you keep young people down, especially when you lace it with tribalism? How long can you do an election and you are gaslighting people? My beloved Yoruba people, during the 2023 election, and for the benefit of my friends that are non-Yorubas, I ran all over media, radio in our language, saying, no, you can't do this. Southwest, you cannot do this. Others can get away with it. But you, Southwest, you have to understand that you cannot be a cosmopolitan environment and be insisting that your tribal jargons is going to be the basis that you're going to be making people uncomfortable. It's like saying that you are in London and your daughter can be, and as God will have it. Because I'm a bit of a prophet, really. The God came in bad enough. So if you are a people that can go to other people's country and try, you might be a bit irritated. You can try to make sure that, okay, why do we not do cultural assimilation? Why do we have to imagine that our culture is static? If the new Yoruba land now includes our Igbo friends, our Hausa friends, and our whatever, all the tribes that are coming here because they feel they can do well here, why don't we try to say, all of you that are in Lagos, using Lagos as an example, now stop this nonsense. Let us create a Lagosian tribe. So that we can say, this is what it means to be a Lagosian. And that Lagosian doesn't necessarily have to be Yoruba alone. It will be, I can teach them. These people are very, very unintelligent. You can do a double-blind survey to find out what do all Lagosians demand as their 4 basic important things that makes them happy in Lagos. Then you will create a narrative, a marketing narrative of those 4 things that cuts across, and then you say, this is what it means to be a Lagosian. I am a Lagosian. An Igbo person to say, I am a Lagosian. The Hausa man say, I am a Lagosian. Then you can say, this is what it means. These are the responsibilities that makes you a Lagosian. Then you will create a tribe out of Lagos. But if you want to be a cosmopolitan environment, the 4th largest economy in Africa, and you are going to be bringing Oro to irritate the people that are carrying some of the...
It's very pedestrian.
No. It's the same. Oh God, Mr. President. I think the problem we have in this country, really, including the democracy and all, is that we have not accepted, you people, brilliant people, have not accepted that there is no us versus them. You need brilliant people, intelligent people, smart people, driven people. You cannot be onlookers in the political space. You got to get involved, because unless you can create a critical mass of people who want value, who want better things, how do you then expect this kind of charlatans to run parties? How would you ever make it? If I were running a party and you said you wanted to go for maybe House of Assembly or House of Rep, I'll be excited because you can even speak the kind of language they speak there. But if I sent you to them, if they are not asking for your skirt, they're going to probably be giving you stress. But unless we come involved, we will not create the... Otherwise, one last one, the Nigerian nation will evolve at its own natural order and pace. And nobody should irritate each other only because of group irresponsibility.
Fantastic. Now let's talk about alternative movement, your organization. You highlighted the problems of Nigeria from generation to generation. I mean, there was a time Alfred Dieter was governor at 25.
Absolutely.
General Yakubu Gowon was president as a bachelor, and there's Anthony Enahoro was a commissioner, was a minister in his 30s. There's so many examples, but you look at the present day modern Nigeria, if he gets an SE appointment at 40, that's almost the peak of his career.
So what's the question?
They're very happy. The question is this, there's no point crying over spilled milk. We've done
enough of that.
Enough of that.
That's why I started
it. Alternative movement, what practical steps can we take to reverse this? And there's also a critical mass of people who don't even know any better. You know, they're left from right. So where do you begin the re-education from?
Okay, let me first of all do the re-education, and I go to the alternative. I was with the leaders of the Chinese system in Nigeria. I went to engage them. We agreed that we'll have an engagement. And so they sent some high-level people there. And I asked them, China, are you really sure you are not cooking the books? And they said, what do I mean? If you say you have lifted about 700 people out of poverty in 10 years, I'm not really convinced you've done that, you know. I feel that statistics can be crooked, and you can be pushing those statistics to make us in Africa look useless, but I don't think you've done that. You know what they told me? They said, well, they've done that. I said, okay, if I go to the village in China, your villages, will your people be happy? Would I meet them? Will I meet happy people? Will I meet them happy? They kept quiet. What's the point I'm trying to make? For us to be the kind of nation we want to be, the most critical thing, in my opinion, we need now is enlightenment. If anybody asks me to come and join this government, let me tell you one story. When we were doing 2019 and Atiku was trying to be president, I always kept telling myself that do I want to be in this people's government? You know why? I hate psychophancy around leaders. I hate the idea that a leader is seated and everybody's just standing on one after the other and talking nonsense. And I know me. So I said to myself, that, will I even be happy? Okay, maybe they should go and let them win if they want to win. They go and do their thing and just not disturb me. I can't be explaining every day. I want to tell the man, Mr. Man, you are doing the wrong thing. I have to be looking for, I don't have time. So one person asked me, okay, you are working so hard. Where do you want to be? Then I thought about it. I said, you know, okay. He said, what? National Orientation Agency. The guy looked at me, there's no money. I said, don't worry, there's no money. He said, why? I said, because unless we understand that the business of creating a culture for the Nigerian people that all Nigerians can accept will constantly not move. So for you to be able to do that, you can't flog them, you can't kill them, you need to work very hard at orientating them, and then you put consequence. If you did that, maybe after about a few years, we'll create a culture of people who are all looking in the same direction. The problem we have the Nigerian nation now, they want to score as jokers. People who are not an inch as clever as him are scoring him. They're only envious. If you had given them that country at the time you give them, more than likely they would not even do half of what is doing. Or if they did, it would be the same model. You know why? Because free market economy and economic capitalization driving policy produces the same type of actions and the same kind of result. Is he the most efficient? Of course not. But within their generation of neither here nor there people, maybe. Do I think they are doing well on the economy and the Nigerian people, are they being well covered? Of course the answer is no. I've always insisted and I still insist. Both Cardoso and Edu are fourth-rate economic thinkers. Let me repeat. Both Cardoso and Edu are fourth-rate economic thinkers.
But their CV says so.
Listen, my friend, what do you call CV? The whole concept of even bringing them into school to come and educate them is so that we can manipulate them to run according to the ideas of the people that have captured them. Listen, if you are not a fourth-rate economic player, the first question that should worry you is that, why is the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer? What are we going to do about that? That will send you in a particular direction of what we need to do. If you are not a fourth-rate economic player, the question you're going to ask is, okay, yes, they did arbitrage with money. Can I see the books, please? Who got what? Where? How? Who did you get the money? Come and explain. If you are not a fourth-rate economic player, are you not going to ask yourself that when you boast about and say you are building the economy, are you not going to dominate it back to the exchange rate you had when we gave it to you? In 2015, when we were handing over Nigeria to these jokers, the exchange rate was $1.99 to $1. It is 1,600 plus now, 1,500, whatever. 1,006. If you discount it, you're going to ask yourself, what is exciting you guys? Then when you are a people that you don't even want to engage brilliant people to talk about the important things, you are going to be cooking the data. If IMF says Nigeria is doing well, you start with that. If IMF says Nigeria is doing well, does that mean we are doing well? If IMF says Nigeria is not doing well, does that mean we're not doing well? We should be the one that know whether the fundamentals of our economy is doing well or is not doing well.
Just like we saw in the NBS when they released the statement, and then later on it was as if they retracted their statement.
You know the problem? The problem is, and actually with due respect to you, I think his biggest problem is that he micromanages too much. Let me tell you what happened with a micromanager. A micromanager is somebody that puts a team together like this, like 4 of us. You have one responsibility, you have one responsibility, you have one responsibility, but because he's a micromanager, he will not allow you to go and do it the way he will help you to do your own. He will help you to, and because there's only 24 hours in a day for a president, he's going to end up only alienating some of. I can tell you for free, a good number of his ministers don't even feel like they are doing as well. Only a few, gangsters.
In what ways has he been a micromanager?
Okay, God will bless you. Tell me, how many ministers does he have? Which of them do you, the Nigerian people, get the impression that they're doing as they should?
David Devine?
Works?
Yes, 1.
Yes, on Wiki.
2.
That's all.
Tunji.
You must be joking.
He slowed down.
No, please, with due respect, what is the guy in power doing? What's the guy in telecommunication? Oh God, what a country. Telecommunication is one thing that we in PDP succeeded in giving all Nigerians. And these people cannot even ensure that since nobody can say they are taking the benefit of the benefit we gave them if the price is low, it belongs to your citizens. They don't even have the decency to make sure that 1, people can get efficient service, 2, people can get some kind of subsidy in terms of the pricing. For them, everything is for profit. Now, when you want to do for profit, there's nothing wrong with that. The question you are going to ask, which I asked the Brazilian president, when we're talking, I said, sir, with due respect, sir, do you know that the African people, the slaves, were the one that built the backbone of your economy? He looked at me. I said, we did. That's what history says. They are in Bahia, they are here, they are here. Then I said, your economy is doing very well. You are doing well. You are now BRICS. I asked him pointedly, Lola, have we and you been put on this earth so you will be doing well and we will just be clapping for you? Mm-hmm. A leader must be interested in the emancipation of his own people. Every other thing is rubbish. If you don't, look.
God, show me, just to play the devil's advocate.
Oh yeah, please.
Now, the handlers of the APC watching this interview say, wow, this man is just firing shots at
I'm not firing shots at them, I'm firing shots at the nation.
At the nation, yes. And that if you have so much brilliant ideas and you engage and you keep saying, we, the PDP, did this and that, why is your party in the state it is today?
Well, you see, it's like a child that is growing old. For the life of an organization, 26 years is old. You know, it's like the life of a cat. After about 26 years, you know, my problem with PDP is that in 2011, let me share this joke with you. In 2011, Daniel and Co said they were leaving to go and do PPN. The people who like to jump here, jump there. Myself and Chief Shodipara, we had the responsibility of managing the election for Jonathan. I became the DG. Before then, I was only interested on the policy side. I was not interested in the nuances of party management. But that responsibility of DG fell on me for Ogun State, Jonathan Sambo. And after we started doing the election, you know what I saw? I started banging the table, code red, code red, code red. The fundamentals by which this political party is going, we need to reform it since 2011. Couldn't I tell? By 2015, let me give you, my friend of blessed memory, may you live well, may God forgive your sins. His name is Brian Edby, the South African. A good 12 months before that election, he called me. He said, you know, it's not in Nigeria. I said, Shine. I said, what's up? He said, you guys are losing, you know. I said, we're losing, why? He said, you're going to lose. So I started begging him, what can we do? He said, no, I won't teach you until after you've lost. After we lost that 2015 election, who didn't I call? And I started begging, okay, please come and teach me why we lost. Why should it be easy for a president to sit in the villa, give Almajiri children education, do this, do that, and we'll still lose? When he opened it up and started showing me how these things are done properly, how science drives narrative, how science drives decision, how science drives day of the vote. You know what I said? I said, it's true, we lost. I've been speaking to my party since then. Right. You know the problem? They believe that every election, let me explain it. They feel that, okay, you know, we lost 2015, right?
Yes.
Instead of them to reform, they felt that no, we'll do it in 2019. We lost. Then they said, oh, we're going to do it in 2023. They lost. Now we're 2022 years. Wait. That's not how. Sometimes an organization must accept the need for a great review, must bring in change management experts, and we have them. I can recommend.
I mean, they say that Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again.
That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. And that's why you see that. But please, on the final note, please, that does not mean that in terms of who loves the Nigerian people, that does not mean that we cannot clamp our chest and say, we love the Nigerian people. Because truly and sincerely, all of these things you have, reforming the economy, reforming the telecom, reforming the communication, all of these things were our gifts to this nation. And if Bola Tinubu on a passing shot, it's 2 years already, if he must get his job done, he needs to get us a reformed judiciary. We can't have a nation where people don't trust their judges. Whatever we need to do, we need to clean that.
All right.
The second thing he needs to do, he needs to give us an INEC that can do an election and we can accept outcome.
And we can trust the results. I mean, time is never enough to speak with you, Otumba.
Okay, it's always a pleasure around you guys. You guys drag me from all over. You drag me from all over.
Thank you. Thank you for always obliging us. And this is how we wrap up today's show. Thank you very much for joining us. This time last year, my brand new nephew was born to the world. So happy birthday, Jeremy. I will never forget May 27th now because of
Happy birthday, Mama Chairman Party. Is one of my very lovely support women in Kano. Mama Chairman Party.
Happy birthday to Mama Chairman Party. We'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you for joining us today on Breakfast Central. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.